unapologetic, unadulterated, and absolutely uncompromising. Which is going to be a new word for a lot of you out there tonight. Greetings, brothers and sisters from around the world, and welcome back to the home, the haven, the stronghold, and the super fortress of intelligent black thought. This is the BlackChannel.net radio program, and I am, of course, your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. I might even take telephone calls tonight at great personal risk to myself in the unlikely but possible event that I do. The telephone number is 646-787-1933. That is 646-787-1933. Your personal access code to the Blackest radio program in existence, the only one of its kind on planet Earth today. You are quite welcome to join us. And join us you shall, because on tonight's program here, I have to just be forthright and forthcoming, as I always am. And you definitely want to share this with your family and your friends. It's time to tick off some folk that you know. Brothers and sisters, when I said it years ago, from behind this very same microphone, when I first said that you couldn't trust these old Negroes, when I said it, that specifically and in particular, you gotta watch out for these older black males. The ones hitting their 50s, and definitely if they're in their 60s and 70s, you gotta keep an eye on them. Because most of them are beaten dogs who have been cowed into submission. And it was said years ago, and it's still true today, that if you meet a black male from the civil rights movement who's still alive, it's most likely because that nigga didn't do nothing. And I find it quite ironic that our ancestor and true elder, Dick Gregory, passed away last night at a ripe old age with his manhood and his integrity intact. Which is a hell of a lot more than I can say for the sniveling, cowardly likes of Andrew Young. Andrew Young, for those of you who don't know, he used to be the mayor of Atlanta, and that's all. He was one of these first black Negro things. One of the first Negroes. And his only claim to fame was being mayor of Atlanta. That was it. Massa let me in the big house. But you gotta think further than that. You gotta think further than that. And on tonight's program, I'm gonna make so many damn enemies tonight. So be it. The Black Ayatollah is holding court. I want to play for you from Meet the Press today. And I want you to hear what Andrew Young had to say. And before I get started, I've got to warn you, this is a blood pressure warning for all of you. He doesn't even make it good out of the gate before the coonery is off the scale. I'm going to play this interview for you, with me, of course, giving running commentary. And I want you to hear what one of the old, whipped, toothless, cowardly dogs of the civil rights generation has to say today, because he went full coon today. He said some things that no self-respecting person, much less a self-respecting black person, much less a self-respecting black male should ever say. But he was in front of Chuck Todd, and you remember what I've taught you all. If you want to find out what a black person really believes, park a white man, particularly a white man with some type of influence, who has the ability to make sure that a lot of other white folk are watching you. Park that black person in front of that white man, or a room full of white people, and you'll find out exactly what he really believes. Because he's not going to lie to black people, to white folk. A Negro will lie to black people. He's not going to lie to a white man. He's going to tell the white man exactly what he truly believes. Because you see, we're not accountable to other black folk for treason. Andrew Young is an old elderly coon nigga. And he's not accountable to other black people for committing treason, but he is accountable to white people. So I want you to hear this tonight, and tonight's going to be a broadcast all of you need to hear, because you are going to hear shades of your parents and your grandparents in what you're going to hear tonight. And before you get to jumping on Andrew Young so much, you might want to take a look around your family tree, around that dinner table, around Thanksgiving. Start to give a little more of a side eye and start to recognize what you really see. I'm going to go ahead and get started playing that audio for you here now.
And joining me now is one of the pioneers of the civil rights movement, UN ambassador, former mayor of Atlanta, former member of Congress, Andy Young. Ambassador Young, welcome back to Meet the Press, sir.
Thank you very much.
Put this week in context.
Now, first of all, did you hear what Chuck Todd said there? Former mayor of Atlanta, former member of Congress, former ambassador, Andrew Young. Y'all remember what Umar Johnson told you? That these old Negroes love titles. They love titles. Okay, you were mayor of Atlanta and a congressman, and that did what for black people? It did plenty for you. It did what for us? Nothing. But old Negroes love their titles. You know why? Because that's the biggest accomplishment they have in life. Literally, that is the most they ever did with their lives. That's it. That's all.
Well, it's a week of misunderstandings. We originally sought to redeem the soul of America from the triple evils of race, war, and poverty. Most of the issues that we are dealing with now are related to poverty, but we still want to put everything in a racial context. The problem with and the reason I feel uncomfortable condemning the Klan types is they're almost the poorest of the poor. They're the forgotten Americans. And they have been used and abused and neglected.
You heard that correctly. Andrew Young just sat here and said, quote, I am uncomfortable condemning the Klan and Klan-type racist individuals because they are the forgotten Americans. Now, you just heard the audio. You just heard it. He just sat here, the former mayor of Atlanta. You all thought that that was a win for black people. Does that sound like a win for black people now that you know what he truly believes? That black folk are not oppressed. That, in fact, it is racist white people who are the forgotten Americans, not black people. But there will be a bunch of dumb niggas out there who will tell me that him being the mayor of Atlanta was a win for black people. They'll still say it. Even after what you just heard, that was still a win. This isn't just a bad idea. This is dangerous.
You're dealing with now are related to poverty. But we still want to put everything in a racial context. The problem with and the reason I feel uncomfortable condemning the Klan types is they're almost the poorest of the poor. They're the forgotten Americans.
You heard it. Now, you can't lie and say you didn't hear what you just heard. You just heard Andrew Young tell you all that the Ku Klux Klan and your hillbilly redneck Americans, those are the unfortunate ones. Those are the poorest of the poor. No, so black folk are not the poorest of the poor, and he doesn't have sympathy for black people. Why, he's got sympathy for the Klan. You see, he wears a off-color black Negro's skin, but in his heart, that's the heart of a white supremacist. That after his entire life walking this earth, he will tell you that racist white people are the poorest of the poor.
You're dealing with now are related to poverty. But we still want to put everything in a racial context. The problem with and the reason I feel uncomfortable condemning the Klan types is they're almost the poorest of the poor. They're the forgotten Americans. And they have been used and abused and neglected.
Now, they've been used and abused and neglected by damn me who? They've got white privilege, but he's here telling you that they're the poorest of the poor. Now, if this is what Andrew Young is saying, now that he's safely out of office and safely retired from politics, can you imagine? Can you fathom to fantasize what he was thinking and what he was doing when he was in office and had access to lots of liberal white women or white men, depending on whatever his appetite was for? He's telling you that a bunch of racist white folk who have access to white privilege, that they deserve his sympathy. Now listen later and see if he also invokes a similar demand for sympathy to black folk. It would be one thing if he said it for everybody, but when he starts talking about black people, see if he talks about black people in the same terms or whether he talks about them differently.
Instead of giving them affordable health care, they give them black lung jobs and they're happy. And that just doesn't make sense in today's world. And they see progress in the black community and on television and everywhere else, and they don't share it. Now, it's not our fault. We've had a struggle from slavery, but black, well, they call themselves militants, but they're not militant. They're chicken. We never tried to take advantage of anybody else. Our job was not to put down white people. Our job was to lift everybody up together.
Now, if you are a person who defends Andrew Young, Coleman Young's a different matter, this chicken crap eating coon nigga, if you sit up here and defend him, just understand you will be just banned outright. What he just said was wholesale treason. Now, did you hear? He sat up here and just said, for racist Klansmen, they are the poorest of the poor, and he feels uncomfortable criticizing them. But when it comes to black people defending themselves, did you notice the nigga didn't miss a beat? I mean, he went right in. Why, they're not militants. they really chickens. I mean, he was laughing. So the white racists and Klansmen, he outright says they do not deserve. They don't deserve to be jumped on. But when it comes to black folk, in the very next sentence, if you didn't know better, you would swear that this old bastard was auditioning for a job at Fox News. And probably is, since he still claims to be friends with Sean Hannity and President Trump. But don't worry, you'll still have Negroes out here defending him. Now, this is what he said today. Talking about militant black people. The white guys are the ones out there with the guns. Let me say that again. The white folk that he's defending, these white supremacist Nazis, they're the ones out there with the guns. But he's talking about militant black folk. And you all know I don't subscribe to that term militant. You're either intelligent or you're foolish. And if someone has a weapon, you should not be unarmed. That's not militancy. That's intelligence. But you're hearing live, well, you're hearing played here, exactly what Andrew Young had to say. And I got a question for you. If this is how he feels about a bunch of young black teenagers in the streets saying Black Lives Matter, can you imagine some of the vile vitriol and venom that he was spewing and spitting about Malcolm X when he was walking around the same streets as Malcolm back then? Can you imagine some of what he was saying about them? No wonder Chuck Todd is able to sit up here and shower all these accolades on Andrew Young. This is a safe nigga. He's not threatening anything. White supremacy will be intact under Andrew Young. All the stuff that they were doing to harm black people and kill black people beforehand, they can keep doing it with Andrew Young sitting there. Of course, Chuck Todd is going to promote Andrew Young as everything a black person should be. His white privilege will be intact. No wonder. Let me go ahead and back that up a little bit so you can hear it plainly.
We've had a struggle from slavery, but black...
oh, wait a minute here. Now, the other thing is that he says that they see black people making progress. Hold on a second, you lying bastard. What progress have black people made? Can somebody tell me the damn progress that black people have made? I'd like to see it. Where is this supposed progress that black people have made, and certainly as relative to white people? What is this progress black people have made, Andrew Young? But you'll have a bunch of dumb Negroes out there fall for this Jedi mind trick. Yeah, we made some progress. Yeah, I'm doing good. Black people are the poorest people on the planet. Let me grab this microphone like I wish it was his neck. Black people are the poorest people on the planet. But you wouldn't know this if you were listening to Andrew Young. You would think that we were the second richest black people on the planet. If you listen to him, he just talked about progress. And I'm trying to figure out what the hell progress he's referring to. Where's the damn progress? But I've always told you that the definition of progress in the mind of individuals like himself is simply sexual access. Interracial sexual access is what he defines as progress. That's it. That is the only thing that he defines as progress. Literally everything else doesn't count. And whatever you ask him is progress, it will all come back around to sexual access. But I want to play this one more time for you here so you can hear him say that we make progress.
The progress in the black community and on television and everywhere else, and comfortable condemning the Klan types, is comfortable condemning the Klan types. They have been used and abused and neglected. Instead of giving them affordable health care, they give them black lung jobs, and they're happy. And that just doesn't make sense in today's world. And they see progress in the black community and on television and everywhere else, and they don't share it. Now, it's not our fault. We've had a struggle from slavery, but black, well, they call themselves militants, but they're not militant. They're chicken. We never tried to take advantage of anybody else. Our job was not to put down white people. Our job was to lift everybody up together.
Our job was not to put down white people. Who's putting down white people, asshat? See, this is that damn coon talk they do on Fox News. Talking about stuff that black people aren't doing. But arguing that, see, we didn't put down white folk. Okay, who's putting down white people? Who's trying to bring in, who's got the power to do it? Even if you wanted to, who's got the power to do it? This is that Fox News Negro talk, where you invent stuff that black folk aren't saying, but these are the phobias and fears and lies that racists tell themselves so you can keep you a good little job as a commentator on NBC or Fox or whatever by regurgitating that bull crap. This isn't a difference in opinion. He knows what he's saying is garbage, but he has made a living at it. He has no other skills. He's an old, washed up, wrinkled Negro who's out to pasture, and he's hoping that by kissing white people's asses that there's yet one more little civil service job, ambassadorship, or some type of political appointment he can be given so he can be the token Negro, when in reality he ought to be sitting in a corner in a room with peeling paint in some nursing home in a backwater of Mississippi somewhere, not even Georgia, in Mississippi, mumbling at the wall.
To come so that we would learn to live together as brothers and sisters rather than perish together as fools. And that's been the way I have done it. Right. And everything as Congress, at the UN, as mayor for 8 years, but all the way back in the early 60s when we were marching.
Oh, God. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? All the way back in the 60s. You know, that's what these old niggas do. They always want to go back and talk about the damn 1960s. Can you tell me what victories you took from the 1960s? John Lewis talking about getting his head busted open. They sound like a bunch of old washed up football players from college that they made one good play in one game, and then all of a sudden they want to sit up here and start talking about it as if, wow, I remember that catch I made, like they're Al Bundy. I remember that catch I made back in 1965. Boy, it was a big game. Never mind the fact that you lost. You lost the damn game, Andrew. You lost. The white supremacists won. The fact that Donald Trump is president of the United States is the bona fide evidence that you lost. And any reference to the 1960s is referencing your loss. You can't spin it now into a victory. You lost. But he's still bringing it up. He wants to take you down memory lane. You know why? Because that was a damn high point for him. In some ways, but not in others. I'll come back to that.
With no support and no protection, and actually in St. Augustine in 64.
Oh, God. He went from the 60s and in St. Augustine in 64. This is what happens when you have some old bumbling ass man sitting here yowling in your damn ear. That's it. And did you hear him say no support, no protection? He was one of the most supported, most protected Negroes out there. How the hell do you think he survived? He's lying again. He had so much white support and white protection while Malcolm got killed and Martin got killed. Many people say that Andrew Young was an FBI asset and had some role in what happened to Dr. King. Oh, I'm sorry, because Dick Gregory just died. And didn't we hear something like that from Dick? Didn't we hear something like that from him? That Andrew Young, during his time as a government operative, might have played a role in what happened to Martin Luther King? I'm just saying we need to look into that some more while you are breaking your arms, patting yourselves on the back. Al Sharpton was a FBI asset. Al Sharpton is still alive. Andrew Young was an FBI asset. Andrew Young is still alive. The folk these guys were standing beside are dead. But they are still alive. But I'm not supposed to bring that up either, am I? You people in this chat room need to be sharing this program. Everybody out there needs to be sharing this program tonight so we can get everybody on the same page. No, I hadn't forgotten about Messy Jesse Jackson. If they're still walking around today, you gotta check their credentials. Because there's probably a FBI folder on them somewhere. And if that folder doesn't say kill on sight, they were probably an FBI asset. Dick Gregory had an FBI folder. J. Edgar Hoover said, kill this nigga. Andrew Young has no such folder. Because they knew he was not a threat. Period. End of discussion. Let the old bastard ramble on.
The Klan was deputized by the sheriff and given license to beat us up.
Now, I thought he just sat here and said these white folk are the poorest of the poor, and he feels uncomfortable and whatnot. Sounds like they got some pretty damn good power sitting right there. This is what happens when you talk to an idiot who knows nothing. He'll ramble on for hours, saying absolutely nothing, and as Malcolm X said, he'll have you thinking that the bad guys are the heroes and the heroes are the bad guys.
And people still insisted on marching down there every night. And then the Saturday when the Klan wanted to march in the black community, I was a little nervous. But when they marched down spontaneously, the same people that had been beaten sang, I love everybody in my heart. And I think the juxtaposition of the violence and the hostility of the Klan and the spirituality and forgiveness of the black community was the thing that probably broke the filibuster in 1964 and gave us the Civil Rights Bill, which offer us a significant number of protections.
The Civil Rights Bill, they have essentially gutted the Civil Rights Act. They've gutted the Voting Rights Act. And furthermore, how the hell do those things help us? You see, Andrew Young is going to sit here and preach to you all the virtues of the Civil Rights Act. You know why? Because he got to become mayor. They carved out a little political position for him. So, of course, he thinks the Civil Rights Act is the greatest thing ever. It gave him a bunch of personal benefits. But that's it. That's all. The Civil Rights Act is dead. And furthermore, we're talking about what it gave you. It has to be renewed. Show me another law for human rights that has to be renewed, because we ain't sure. We're not sure if this should be the law of the land. We have to renew it every couple of decades because we're not sure if it should remain the law of the land. But he'll sit here and tell you that that's an accomplishment. Perpetual jeopardy is an accomplishment. He doesn't give a damn. He's old. He's through. He just wants a quiet death now. And all these young people talking about how he failed, that's what he's raging against. You all think you militants. You should look at everything I did for you there. We did real good. Why, when the Klan was marching, we said we love everybody. And while they was busting our damn heads open, well, I got to pinch Miss Becky on the backside. But it was worth it. It was worth getting my head busted open to pinch Miss Becky on the backside. And you don't know true freedom until you pinch Becky on the backside. And all you militant Negroes talking about there's something more to life, you the problem. That is Andrew Young. That's him.
Now, not everything. We didn't make everything right. But the answer is to continue to make everything better.
Now, did you hear this unabashed, illogical, backward, bass-ackward crap he just said? We didn't get everything right. So the answer is to keep doing what we did that didn't get everything right. Our solution was flawed and failed. So the answer isn't to abandon what we were doing. The answer is to just keep doing what hasn't worked. You've had 50 damn years of failure, and Andrew Young just sat here and told you all that the solution is to keep doing that which has failed. This is what I mean. There are no answers from his group except that you should become better and more adept at getting your damn head busted open. Far as he's concerned, the only problem is that you haven't gotten more used to it. Let me play it so you can hear it again.
The hostility of the Klan and the spirituality and forgiveness of the black community was the thing that probably broke the filibuster in 1964 and gave us the Civil Rights Bill, which offer us a significant number of protections.
Now, notice he only said it probably gave us the Civil Rights Bill because he can't actually say that it did. So he's going to lie again and say, well, you know, and because of that there, we probably got the Civil Rights Bill too. A politician lying until the very end. And he knows he's lying. My job is to make sure that you all understand this nigga's lying.
Now, not everything. We didn't make everything right. But the answer is to continue to make everything better for everybody.
Now, do you all know that this sounds just like Barack Obama's doublespeak? Remember, Barack Obama said, we don't have justice. Remember, he said this right before he left office in the final couple of months. Remember, he gave that speech. We don't have justice today. There's still injustices. What he was referring to was black folk getting murdered by police and white supremacists. He said, we still don't have justice, but these things take time. And Dr. King taught you all that justice delayed is justice denied. And Obama was performing the same job as Coleman Young. That's why they talk the same. Wait, Negroes, just wait. Yeah, you have to live under injustice and murder. You have to live under murder. But you need to just wait until we white folks get tired of committing murder against you. So you need to just wait. Keep doing what you've been doing. Keep appealing to us that at our will, that we stop committing brutality and violence against you. At our will, at our discretion, not yours. You just keep imploring us to change at our will of our own volition. But don't you tell us we have to change. Now, the gays and the illegals and the feminists, they can tell us they demand it, but not you Negroes. You have to ask. Would Andrew Young be telling a group of white women that they need to just keep doing what they've been doing and hope things get better? Hell no. But as I told you, he's sitting in front of a white man, and he's going to tell that white man exactly what he actually truly believes in his heart of hearts. He's going to tell him what he really believes. And I told you that it was going to be brutal. And it is.
It feels like we're in a moment where we're stuck. And we're stuck for a lot of reasons. And the president, you have, some have even said there's a growing cabal of folks who believe he's already lost his moral authority to be a healer in all this, to help with reconciliation and all this because of what he did on Tuesday. Well, you have a relationship with him, with the president, off and on.
Not really.
Fair enough. But you take his calls. If he calls, you take his calls.
Now, isn't that something that Chuck Todd put him on the spot? Why, Donald Trump is your buddy. We got pictures. You've supported him in the past, but Donald Trump is your friend. Andrew Young wanted to put some distance right there. Well, he ain't quite like that right there. You put me on the spot there, Chuck. You put me on the spot. You got me stuck like Chuck here right now. I'm getting stuck like Chuck. No, they ain't right there. Now you calling my hand now. You put me out there. You put me out there.
Some have even said there's a growing cabal of folks who believe he's already lost his moral authority to be a healer in all this, to help with reconciliation and all this because of what he did on Tuesday. Well, you have a relationship with him, with the president, off and on.
Not really.
Fair enough. But you take his calls. If he calls, you take his calls.
Sure.
If he called you this week, what would you tell him? How would you tell him to fix this?
I don't know what I would say, because I think he's caught in a trap.
Now, I want you all to listen to what he has to say next. This is what Andrew Young has to say about President Donald Trump after the Charlottesville Nazi rally. After Donald Trump said there was terrible violence on both sides. After Donald Trump said that there were good people among the white supremacists and the Nazis who showed up in Charlottesville and wreaked havoc, murder, and mayhem. After Donald Trump said that he had a problem with taking down Confederate statues. After Donald Trump said all of this, this is what Andrew Young has to say. I keep saying Coleman because birds of a feather. But this is what Andrew Young had to say after all of this. Not before. He said this today. We're a week out. A week out. 4 days after Trump made his follow-up remarks. Yeah, I meant what I said. Violence on both sides. Nazis ain't such bad people. What's wrong with the Confederacy? This is Andrew Young in his own words.
And all this because of what he did on Tuesday. Well, you have a relationship with him, with the president, off and on.
Not really.
Fair enough. But you take his calls. If he calls, you take his calls.
Sure.
If he called you this week, what would you tell him? How would you tell him to fix this?
I don't know what I would say, because I think he's caught in a trap. And I don't think there are any easy answers.
What's the trap?
The trap is that he's still politicking and thinking nationally, as a nationalist. And so is almost everybody else, including those who are trying to think back and blame it on the Civil War, which is hundreds of years ago. But the problem we have is that we're not living in a nationalist environment. And that's also his problem personally, that his business is all global.
Now, did you hear what he had to say there? Why he feels that Donald Trump is trapped. And he doesn't believe that the reason that Trump is trapped is because Trump is a racist. And he said that nationalist, he didn't say white nationalist. Why, this is just a nationalist issue. This is just a social issue. This is just an ideological difference. But then again, he started out from the very beginning telling you everything's not about race. Everything's not about race. Isn't that what your white masters want you to say? That things are not about race?
And I don't think there are any easy answers.
What's the trap?
The trap is that he's still politicking and thinking nationally, as a nationalist. And so is almost everybody else, including those who are trying to think back and blame it on the Civil War, which is hundreds of years ago. But the problem we have is that we're not living in a nationalist environment. And that's also his problem personally, that his business is all global. His business is in a global economy, and he's trying to run the country from a national economy. Now, Atlanta hadn't done that. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean... Yeah,
okay, now
Ronald
here's
Reagan,
the part right here that really just quite frankly chapped my ass. I just have to say it like that. Because Andrew Young is about to do the most despicable thing in the world. He is about to try to sit up here and take responsibility that he was the mayor of Atlanta for 8 years during economic decline. And he is about to sit up here and try to take credit for stuff that happened before he was mayor and decades after he left office. Remember, he left office in 1992, I want to say. I want to say he was mayor of Atlanta from 84 to 92. You all can Google that and check it out. If I'm wrong, I'm only off by a year or two. But he was mayor of Atlanta, as I remember, from 1984 to 1992. So what that means is we're going on 25 years. It's been 25 years since he was no longer a factor of any shape, form, fashion, or manner. And what he would have you all believe is that for the past, that Atlanta was nothing when he showed up, and Atlanta was juking when he left. 25 years ago. So in this most skullduggerous, despicable bit of intellectual and historical dishonesty, this thieving lying bastard is about to try to take credit for literally every good thing that happened to Atlanta. He's going to try to take credit for all of it in an attempt, as dishonest and disreputable as it is, to try to bolster his own bona fides to defend Donald Trump. Because notice he hasn't said anything critical about Trump yet. He hasn't condemned Trump yet. He's going to go into all of this in an attempt to defend Donald Trump. Listen to how far this bastard's going to go.
When he announced his presidency in 1980, he went to Philadelphia, Mississippi, where 3 civil rights workers were killed, 2 white and 1 black. And so we knew we couldn't depend on him for any moral authority.
First of all, you are a son of a dog bastard to talk about being able to depend on someone for moral authority, Andrew Young. You are the last person in this world, Andrew Young, after what you just said, to try to condemn someone else for lacking moral authority. The other thing is Ronald Reagan. Ronald Wilson Reagan. You know, these old Negroes from the Civil Rights generation, they love to make Reagan their whipping dog because they think that that's a good scapegoat to deflect attention from what they never accomplished. Because y'all were losing before Reagan and you lost after Reagan. And you all told us Obama was going to be the promised land, and we lost more than ever. The police went on an endless rampage on video with you all telling us that we have arrived and it's a post-racial America. So they pull out Reagan because you're supposed to sit here and keep your eyes on Reagan, keep your eyes on Reagan, keep your eyes on Reagan to keep your eyes off of Andrew Young and the rest of these traitors. That's the goal in what he just said. Keep your eyes on Reagan.
That his business is all global. His business is in a global economy, and he's trying to run the country from a national economy. Now, Atlanta hadn't done that. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, Ronald Reagan, when he announced his presidency in 1980, went to Philadelphia, Mississippi, where 3 civil rights workers were killed, 2 white and 1 black. And so we knew we couldn't depend on him for any moral authority. But what we did in Atlanta was, ironically, Washington has $20 trillion and $22 trillion or so in debt. Wall Street has seemingly unlimited money. Yeah. So Atlanta forgot Washington, and we went to Wall Street. And so our airport, we've probably gotten $30 billion out of Wall Street over the last 40 years. But that airport is making over $40 billion every year.
Now, first of all, let's just be very clear about something here. This is what I meant about the criminal dishonesty of this son of a gun. And I'm trying to keep my language as clean as I possibly can right now, because you are looking at one of the most criminally dishonest individuals that you could possibly come across. Now, Ronald Reagan was elected President of the United States in 1980. He was elected president in 1980. And yet, Andrew Young, I just looked it up here to be sure, he was a mayor of Atlanta from 1982 to 1990. So I wanted to be clear about that. Andrew Young was mayor of Atlanta from 1982 to 1990. So in other words, he just sat here and told you that when Reagan was running for office, we knew we couldn't get anything out of Reagan. But how can that be, Andrew, if you weren't mayor until 1982? Reagan was president for 2 years. What are you talking about? What were you doing? What were you running? You weren't running anything. And by the way, he said $20 trillion in debt. The United States government's debt was actually somewhere closer to only $1 trillion. And actually, when Jimmy Carter was president, it wasn't even $1 trillion yet. It blew up under Reagan, but it went to $22 trillion under Barack Obama. So this guy can't even keep his chronology or his lies straight. The math is kicking your ass, Andrew. But then he talks like a right-wing conservative that, well, the government is no good. We need to go to the private sector, private sector, private sector. The government didn't have $20 trillion in debt, dumbass. You're lying. Either that or you're an idiot. Either way, you're illegitimate to speak. The government did not have $20 trillion in debt. And if you went to Wall Street, it's because they own it. But in any case, you couldn't have gone to anybody, Andrew. Ronald Reagan, according to you, he wasn't even president yet. He wasn't even in office yet, and you're claiming, well, we went to Wall Street. Who the hell is we? It wasn't you. It damn sure wasn't you. Do you see how quick he is to lie? That's what I'm trying to show you. Do you see how quick and pathological he is to lie? He'll just sit here, look you straight in the eye, and tell a straight, bold-faced lie. We went to Wall Street. Define we, Andrew, because according to you, you didn't trust Reagan in Philadelphia when he was campaigning. Well, that would be over 2 years before you were elected mayor. But don't worry about that. And furthermore, he would have you believe that Atlanta's airport became a world-class airport in the 80s? What the hell? So LaGuardia and JFK and DFW don't matter. It was bumping at Atlanta. This is the type of dishonesty you're going to be up against. No one, and you heard Chuck Todd sitting there laughing, because Chuck knows it's bullcrap too. But he's like, go ahead, old lying old Negro, because you're keeping the eye off the real ball.
And it's creating hundreds of thousands of jobs. We didn't have an expansion and growth in American business. So I went to Germany, and Germany was building things. Germany and Japan were building things faster than they could sell them. And I said, you all have to be in the U.S. market to survive in the 21st century. We now have 2,500 German companies in and around the city of Atlanta. And they're creating jobs. They're not taking jobs. They're taking jobs from Germany, but they're hiring Americans.
Now, this Negro just doesn't stop the lying. He doesn't stop the lying. So George W. Bush, he was made ambassador. And not George W. Bush, but Andrew Young was made ambassador. Let me just make sure I'm clear about that. Andrew Young was made ambassador. But if you're listening to him, it sounds like he's sitting here telling you that, man, oh man, take a look at what I'm doing. If you're listening to him, now he was ambassador to the United Nations like back in the 70s under Jimmy Carter. But if you listen to this guy, he was kicking ass. If you listen to him. That's the point I'm trying to make to you here. If you listen to him, why, he was just lighting the damn world on fire. Now, this would have been before he became mayor of Atlanta. Before he became mayor of Atlanta, we are to believe that he was luring foreign businesses to Atlanta in the 21st century. You just heard it for yourselves. You just heard it for yourselves. Like I say, he's telling his lies so rapid fire, they're falling over each other. So what are you saying that you went? When did you go to Germany and Japan in the 21st century? We've got United States ambassadors out of our ears right now, but if you listen to Andrew Young, he would have you believe that he is the U.S. ambassador, apparently of Atlanta, not of America. He's the U.S. ambassador of Atlanta. If you listen to him. Go and check when he actually held these positions, but listen to the chronology that he just gave you.
That airport is making over $40 billion every year, and it's creating hundreds of thousands of jobs. We didn't have an expansion and growth in American business. So I went to Germany, and Germany was building things. Germany and Japan were building things faster than they could sell them. And I said, you all have to be in the U.S. market to survive in the 21st century. We now have 2,500 German companies in and around the city of Atlanta. And they're creating jobs.
Now you just heard it for yourselves. He was ambassador to the UN. He was U.S. ambassador from 77 to 79. He was mayor of Atlanta from 82 to 90. And yet he told you that he was shot calling to Germany and Japan in the 21st century. He's just hoping that none of you bother to use a thing called Google. That's what he's hoping for. So he's telling you that because he left office in 1990. So he's telling you that 10 years under George W. Bush, 10 years later, under George W. Bush, somehow he was shot calling overseas. Somehow. Because he sat here and just said the 21st century. He'll sit here in your faces and tell you a lie, but then again, Obama got away with it for 8 years. Why in the world should we hold it against old Andrew, huh?
Not taking jobs, they're taking jobs from Germany, but they're hiring Americans, black and white and Hispanic and Asian, and that's a long way, because I grew up in New Orleans in 1936.
Right.
I was the German-American Bund and headquarters of the Nazi Party was 50 yards from where I was born. Mm-hmm. So I've been dealing with Nazism and white supremacy since I was 4 years old.
No, your definition of dealing with it, Andrew Young, is making them comfortable and appeasing the Nazis. That's Andrew Young's definition of, quote, dealing with white supremacy, dealing with Nazis. For him, dealing with them is showing them he's a safe Negro. Now, you all got to understand something. I was born and raised in Louisiana. I was born and raised in Shreveport, the last capital of the Confederacy, before they completely declared their ceasefire. And let me go ahead very quickly before I get back on this buck-dancing Sambo Negro. The Civil War never ended. Now, that's the part that you all have to understand. The Civil War never ended. How do you know that the Civil War never ended? Because there is a process that takes place when a war is over and the new civilian authority begins to organize the society. There's a process that takes place. Whether it was the American Revolution, the French Revolution, whether it was World War I, World War II, Vietnam, Korea, the American Civil War, the Balkan Civil War, the Bolshevik Revolution. Okay, you all get the point. There is a process that takes place when a war is over and there is a new civilian authority that takes over. There's something that's got to be done before you can move forward with the process of organizing your society. There's a process that has to take place. What you first do is you go back and get an accounting of what happened during the war. Were there any war crimes, and are there any elements still moving about in your society that could restart hostilities? That's what you do. That's the first thing you do when a war is over, is you neutralize any elements within the society that could reignite hostilities, that could restart the war. So what that means is you got to know who all the enemy soldiers are. You got to know where all the enemy commanders are, where all of the enemy executives are. Know exactly where they are, round them up, so that you've got an accounting of who your enemies are, and then you put them on trial to determine what their punishment should be. That's what you do after a war. You gather together all of the enemy soldiers and you determine who is a threat and who isn't. That's what you do. But that isn't what happened in the American Civil War. You see, in the American Civil War, something different occurred, because after the World War II, we had Nuremberg. And Nuremberg was where you rounded up the losers. You rounded up the Nazis who started the war, and then you determined what their individual punishments should be for starting that war. You got an account of the crimes that they committed during the war, so that you could ensure that there would not be a continuation of hostilities. That's what you do. But that isn't what happened in America. After the Civil War was over in America, you had something called Appomattox. And what happened was General Robert E. Lee, when he realized that he simply could not win, he what they call sued for peace, and he asked the Union to allow the Confederacy to negotiate its ceasefire, its cessation of hostilities. But there was one condition that Robert Lee and the Confederacy wanted above anything else. They demanded that there must be a federal statute that they call posse comitatus. And posse comitatus simply meant that the federal government, that is the Union, would not send in Union soldiers to attempt to round up Confederate traitors for starting the Civil War. Now today, the way that they articulate posse comitatus is that, well, the federal government can't send in soldiers of the United States military to perform law enforcement operations. But Robert Lee, the Confederacy, when it was clear that things were going to go bad, that it was already over, what he wanted to make sure was simply that the war was over, and basically their demand was just let us go home. We will put down our arms. We will stop any attempt to secede and to keep these Negroes on the plantations by force. We will stop using violence to keep the Negroes on the plantations by force, and we'll stop shooting at the Union if you just let us walk away and go home. And that was what the Union agreed to. They agreed that Robert Lee and the Confederacy would simply get up and walk away. If you all go home and put your guns down, we will not send in William Tecumseh Sherman, who really wanted to kill them all, and we won't send in any of the rest of our Union generals who really want to hang you all as traitors. We won't send them in. You just go home. Don't believe me? Go look it up for yourselves. Go look up Appomattox and posse comitatus. Other people have tried to speak on this and didn't get it quite right, but go look up Appomattox and posse comitatus. Those are the two things. At Appomattox, Robert Lee simply wanted to make sure that the Confederate soldiers, and more specifically the Confederate commanders, would not be pursued after hostilities had ended. At that point, that was the most he could hope for. That was historic, because usually when wars are over, they round up the leaders who started it and hang them. And Robert Lee was able to negotiate a ceasefire that did not involve his execution for treason. And Robert Lee and Jefferson Davis and the rest of their ilk of the Confederacy are the most famous traitors in history, because they were able to negotiate to keep walking the earth of the nation they had committed treason against with basically no punishment. And people talk about pardons and whatnot, but they really didn't need pardons. Lee had already negotiated that, essentially. Once we had posse comitatus, that was it. That was it. You could not, they were agreeing that they would not pursue the Confederate generals to punish them for what they had done during the war. You see, that's what happens when a war is over. You round up the bad guys and you punish them. You have executions. You have tribunals. But that never happened in America. They were simply let go. Now, your history teachers probably glossed over that, but that's what happened. No wonder you had Confederate banks and Confederate hospitals, Confederate retirement funds, because they were never punished. They were never rounded up. There was never a Nuremberg. There was never a war crimes tribunal. There was never an accounting. They were just sent back home to deal death and destruction during Reconstruction upon black people. That was what happened. So the Civil War never ended. And you have to understand that that is what made an impression on Andrew Young. Andrew Young is one of the cowardly Negroes who would kiss ass, buck dance, suck up, and anything else. As far as he's concerned, if I'm still alive today, I'm winning. Who cares if I sold my soul? Who cares if I sold my dignity? Who cares if I hoard out my self-respect? My neck is still attached to the rest of me, even though the rest of you is a treasonous, traitorous dog. Oh well.
And my father said, look, that's a sickness. You don't let them get you upset, and don't ever get angry at sick people. Mm-hmm.
Now, listen to this very carefully here, okay? When he talks about his father, because he talks about his father here, and I want you to listen. When he talks about his dad, I want you to listen to the lessons that his father taught him. I want you to listen to this. And I then want you to ask yourself, why would any white supremacist not vote for Andrew Young as their mayor, their governor, or their president? After hearing what you're going to hear here in a moment, ask yourself, why would any white supremacist not vote for him?
You don't get mad, you get smart. They cannot help you. But if you can help them, you ought to try.
Let me go back to the president, though, because you said something interesting in May. You said you don't know yet how to help him because you don't want to be used. And in January, when you talked to him, you said you still had hope. Where are you now? You just said you don't know you don't know how he can get out of his trap. So what would you say to him now if he's asking you for help?
No, I don't know. But for instance, I think that he made a mistake of thinking that living was easy. And it just is not. I mean, it's hell to pass a bill. It's hell to change an attitude. It's hell. And almost any changes, and I tell you what, I admire his family, and I think that the thing that the president has...
Did you hear that? He admires Donald Trump's family. Andrew Young just said he admires Donald Trump's family. I wonder if that includes Donald Trump's father. You know, the Nazi Klansman. I wonder if that includes him. For Andrew Young, probably does, and he just writes it off as, well, he was just an old man right there. You know, everybody was in the Klan back then. It wasn't so bad. If the Klan wasn't so bad, Andrew, why the hell did you need a civil rights law if they weren't so bad? But I digress.
To do is think of the American people, all of us, as his family. And I try to think of him as a potential leader not only of the United States of America, but a leader of the free world.
Think of them as your family. Do you all hear this, jackass? Think of them all as your family. I tell you, these old Negroes really never tire of getting their damn heads bashed in, chasing this fallacy of white supremacist acceptance. They really never get tired of it. There's no mountain too high, there's no river too wide, there's no valley too deep, there's no punishment too severe to prevent them from chasing it to their very dying day.
And of the enslaved world. I know it's crazy, but I saw Bannon carrying a book going to Tehran some months ago at one of the press conferences, and I'd read that book. And it's a very accurate history of America's relationships with Iran. And I was just thrilled that he was reading that, because I don't think the president has had time to study foreign affairs. But there was also somebody said from the White House, said that there is no military solution to North Korea. And whoever said that was wise and true. But there's almost no military solution to any problem we face. But there are socio-economic solutions to every problem we face. And there's spiritual solutions. The last time I really spent any time with President Trump was at Maya Angelou's 80th birthday party, and he was at a gospel breakfast. And everybody was singing and shouting, and Maya Angelou.
Here comes the religious talk. Here it comes. I'm just warning you all right now. Here we go. Here comes the religious talk, full bore. Hang on to your hats.
And whoever said that was wise and true. But there's almost no military solution to any problem we face. But there are socio-economic solutions to every problem we face. And there's spiritual solutions. The last time I really spent any time with President Trump was at Maya Angelou's 80th birthday party, and he was at a gospel breakfast. And everybody was singing and shouting, and Maya Angelou probably knew that this was one of her last occasions, so it was one of the most intense spiritual experiences that I have been in, and I've been in a lot. And I would just hope that he could remember that moment. And
intense spiritual experiences. One of the most intense spiritual experiences. Brothers and sisters, what in the hip-hoppin', flip-floppity, lambastin' hell is this Negro talking about? Intense spiritual experiences? He's talking like they were tripping LSD. Intense spiritual experiences? What in the hell? Maybe somebody can explain it to me. I'm going to go ahead and open the phone lines now. You can go ahead and give us a call here at 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933, the blackchannel.net radio program. Andrew Young says that he feels uncomfortable criticizing Klansmen because they're poor white people, but that black militants are chickens and silly. And by the way, it's Maya Angelou, you asshat. Not Angelo, Angelou. And he said it twice. But he's the authority. He liked this woman so much he don't even know her last name.
Remember the spiritual power that was in the room. And that's the spiritual power that he needs to guide him if he's going to guide this nation.
Now, have you all ever heard feminists talk about the president needs to remember a spiritual experience or spiritual power? Have you all ever heard the gays talk about the president needs to remember spiritual power? Have you all heard the illegals talk about presidents need to remember spiritual power? The Latinos, presidents need to remember spiritual power. When was the last time you heard any of these other groups appeal to a president on the basis of quote unquote spiritual power? What in the hell is he talking about?
The world.
I want to ask you a couple of other sort of thorny topics that have come out of Charlottesville. One is this rise of a violent opposition to white supremacy, this so-called Antifa movement. We're going to have a debate about it later in the show between somebody who advocates it, somebody that doesn't. You come from the nonviolence movement that was successful. What do you say to those activists 2 generations later who think violence is the right way to do it.
No, it's more about 5 generations later. And there were those who thought violence was the right way then. And they're not around. And they weren't killed by white people. They were killed by their own anger and frustration and their inability to turn down their emotions and turn on their mind.
Now, I'm going to stop him here for just a moment. First of all, in the chat room, you're right. What violent opposition? Black people have never been violent. That's been the problem. Everybody else has expressed violence and perpetrated violence and executed violence against us, and we've just sat there for the most part. But let's go back here and listen to what he just said. Even among the black folk who did preach to defend yourselves, he sat here and said they weren't done in by white supremacists. Okay, so Geronimo Pratt, those weren't white supremacists that went after him. Fred Hampton, those weren't white supremacists that went after him. Junior, those weren't white supremacists that went after him. We can go down the list. I guess J. Edgar Hoover wasn't white. I guess COINTELPRO wasn't white either. I guess flooding the black community with drugs, I guess that wasn't a white plot either. Right, Andrew Young? Malcolm X's father, was he killed by... I guess he wasn't killed by white men either. I guess that just wasn't it. All the black men who tried to organize, I guess Rosewood, that wasn't white folk either. If you listen to Andrew Young, that wasn't them either, was it? I don't know if this is Andrew Young or Andrew Breitbart, because they both sound about the same. Now, he just sat here talking about tucking in your emotions. Now, I want to explain to you all here, what is it that creates a coon? What is it that creates a coward? What is it that creates one of the civil rights generation cowards? And I submit to you that a coward is born and built in the home. And listen to what he says his father taught him. Now remember what he just said about people standing up for themselves against violence. He says that the victims are the problem. And listen to what he cites as justifying that.
And from 4 years old, I was always taught. My father used to tap me in the face and, to try to get me upset. Mm-hmm. And if I swung back at him, he'd slap me upside my head. He said, see, if you start getting emotional in a fight, you're going to lose the fight. Don't get mad, get smart. And that served me well. And it's...
Did you all hear that? Those are the lessons he says his father taught him. Those are the lessons he says his father taught him. That his father taught him that if you stand up to people who assault you, that's the problem. He's telling you that he was taught young. Andrew Young, irony, was taught young by his father to bow down. While other men would teach their sons, if somebody lays their hands on you, you lay them out. He taught his son, you bow down and you don't make no waves and you don't make no trouble. Andrew Young, my name is Jason Black, and I just want to address these next remarks to you. You said, take a look at these other people. They're gone and I'm still here. A coward dies 1,000 deaths, a hero dies but once. And I'm sure you wake up a dead man every day. Because you left any semblance of manhood a long time ago. And it's nothing to brag about saying I lived 6 decades as a sniveling coward. But there's something more to it. There's something more to it. You see, I got pictures of you when you were young. Andrew Young. I got pictures of you then, and I could see it in your eyes then with your aquiline features and your aquiline nose. Andrew Young, I could see it in your eyes then that when you looked at Dr. King, you saw an alpha male. And when you looked at Huey P. Newton, and when you looked at the majesty of Marcus Mosiah Garvey and Malcolm X, you saw alpha males and a type of majesty and manhood and authority that you could never in your life in 1,000 lifetimes pray to have, you sniveling, belly-crawling bastard. You could never pray to have half of the guts that those men had in one of their pinky toenails. And that has eaten you alive your whole life. That people made movies about Huey Newton. They made movies about Malcolm X. They made movies about Dr. King and Marcus Garvey. They erected shrines to them. Ain't nobody erected no shrines to Andrew Young. Nobody's making any movies about him because you can't make a movie about a coward. You see, we could make a movie about Malcolm X because you can make a film about a man's courage. Ain't nobody gonna come show up to see a film about a sniveling dog coward. So yeah, they make t-shirts, they've erected shrines, we have schools named after these other people. Ain't nobody sitting up talking about how proud they are of what you did, Andrew Young, because a coward doesn't accomplish anything. So that's the other part that you didn't mention to Chuck Todd, which is, by the way, these other people, their names are mentioned with esteem. Nobody mentions Andrew Young's name with any esteem. Because the truth of the matter is, Andrew Young, you walked beside Dr. King, and you walked beside Malcolm X, and you walked beside Huey Newton, and you were jealous of them the entire time because you realized that those black men had testicles you could never hope for. And every time you saw Malcolm's eyes, you saw a man. And when you looked in the mirror, you saw a hoe. And you knew it, and you know it today, which is why you're so desperate to try to rewrite your own history. Unfortunately for you, Jason Black is here, and that's not gonna happen. So you're sitting up here now trying to impugn these gods, which would be that would be like a roach overthrowing a volcano. Simply ain't gonna happen. But when you take a look at Malcolm and Huey and Fred Hampton and Eldridge Cleaver and real men, when you take a look at real men, you're still salty about it to this day because you're waiting for somebody to come up to you and extol the virtues and how smart you were for being the most cowardly nigga in the room. And you're still waiting for it. There's a bunch of young females out here today that would fist fight in the streets for a chance to be Malcolm X's woman today, even if Malcolm was alive at his elderly age. Nobody is lined up for that for you. There is no esteem in being next to Andrew Young. There wasn't 40 years ago, and there isn't today. And that's why you hate them. That's why you want to throw salt. That's why you're testy about it. Because those were men. And you never were. And you realize that they had guts you could never pray to get. Never in your life. Your daddy taught you to be a damn punching bag. And here you are today trying to convince the young people of the virtues of being a punching bag. And it ain't working. go ahead and see about opening the phone calls right now. And if you're on the line, if you are not trying to talk to us, you really just need to hang up. I'm not interested in anybody being on the line, just taking up space. If you're not interested in talking, this is your cue to hang up the phone now. Caller from 469, you're on live with the Black Channel. Speak or leave.
Yes, this is John Ross from Dallas.
John Ross from Dallas, what's on your mind?
Man, I mean, I'm killing brain cells just listening to this guy, but I don't understand this couple of things. I don't understand this cowardly disposition where people think, okay, if I don't fight back, I'll be okay. Because what my mother taught me when I was growing up was, why are you scared of getting hit? Because you're getting hit anyway.
Well,
you're getting hit anyway. You might as well fight back.
That wasn't what my folks taught me. My folks taught me something slightly different, John Ross. And for those of you who heard Andrew Young's daddy turn him into the hoe punk that he is today, which tells you that it's not his being elderly that kept him from fighting. He's been a coward his whole life. This isn't new. Let me tell you what my folks taught me, brother. My folks taught me that if somebody hits you and you let them get away with it, that will only encourage them to come back and keep doing it. They're not going to get tired. They're not going to find morality. They're not going to find decency. If somebody attacks you and you let them get away with it, you are encouraging them to continue doing it. That's treason to your children, John. That's treason. Because you are not teaching your children a legacy of survival. You are teaching them a legacy of, at best, victimhood and at worst, extinction. You don't teach your children that it's okay for them to get hit, because that will only encourage the people who hit them to keep doing it until they kill your children.
Yep. And the thing is, when you're raised by a coward, you don't learn to stand up for yourself. And of course, that's not an excuse as to what he's doing. My ears are bleeding. But, just what we have to do is, this is a more important reason why we need an economy up, so we can start sidelining these useless elders. I wouldn't call them elders. What you call them, olders? We need to sideline these people. And being old, for those of you listening, is no excuse, because Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, Dr. Neely Fuller, Dick Gregory, these were all elders. 2 of them have crossed over, and they kept fighting to their dying breath. So being old is no excuse.
Not only is it no excuse, it's also no accomplishment.
No.
Just getting old. This shows you how pathetic the civil rights generation is. They're sitting there telling you that getting old is an accomplishment. And just like Andrew Young, a lot of your fathers and a lot of your mothers out there, they got old by being cowards. Don't let anybody sit up here and tell you that they were a member of the Panthers. You tell them, show your proof. I had one liar on Twitter today trying to talk about, I was with the Panthers. I said, I'm saying you're a liar. Show me proof. They never showed up again. These folk think that there's enough distance from the days of their cowardice. They think there's enough difference from their youth when they were young cowards. Now that they're old cowards and the Panthers won, that's the amazing thing, is that, by the way, if the Panthers didn't win, then why is it everybody mentions them and not Andrew Young? Why is it everybody cites them and not Andrew Young? Why is it everybody emulates them and not Andrew Young if Andrew won and the Panthers didn't? But in any case, these people will sit up here and think that there's enough distance between their youthful cowardice and today that you all won't be able to track down the facts and investigate to verify if what they're telling you is true or not. And I tell you all, treat every member of the civil rights generation as if they are a coward until they prove otherwise. If they can do like Dick Gregory. If they really put in work, they can do like Dick Gregory and show you what they did. They wouldn't have any choice because this white supremacist society documented everybody who stood up against them. They documented every single person that stood up against them. So if your daddy or your granddaddy stood up against them, there's a document somewhere, there's a photograph, there's a newspaper article somewhere pointing out, yeah, this nigga was a troublemaker. So if you can't find that, that's because they weren't troublemakers. They went along to get along. And now that they have no manhood, they're sitting up here trying to lie and say, yeah, I was with the Panthers back then. Okay, but if they were with the Panthers back then, they would be talking militant today. They would be talking empowerment today. They would be talking strident today. They would be talking uncompromising today. The most bootlicking niggas in the room are talking about, I was with the Panthers. You can't be, because real recognize real, and you talking phony as hell.
Yep. Well, it's like what King Louis said. I don't know you. I don't know this person. And I want people to be on the lookout for something else, which is a new code word that the racist white supremacists are coming up with, which is Antifa. Now, just to be clear, Antifa, like Black Lives Matter, actually exist, but they're being flipped as code words. Antifa is really just a code word nowadays for white liberals or anybody, regardless of race, who stands against white supremacy. Got to be careful of that. So, I don't know if anybody else has noticed that. I have in my interactions. Just like those people who tore down that statue in, I want to say South Carolina, those were people who were called Antifa just because it was an anti-fascist rally. There's no evidence that the African-American or the Asian-American arrested were even part of Antifa.
Well, here's the thing. We can't let the white supremacists and their lackeys frame the narrative. We got the momentum. We're framing the narrative. We just need to keep at it. And another thing that I would tell for black people is we need to become tasteless, odorless, colorless. And I don't mean in ideology. I mean in practice and how we move. We need to be completely invisible. We need to be strong in effect. But it doesn't matter what you call us. It doesn't matter what we look like. It doesn't matter all of those ancillary, superficial things. It is our effectiveness. We shouldn't be caught up on a label of any kind. You can call us black radicals. You can call us black empowerment. You can call us Antifa. You can call us Black Lives Matter. You can call us Lucky Charms. Whatever you want to. So long as we're getting the job done. Doesn't matter what you call us. When we adopt that ideology to ourselves, we will become supremely powerful. I'll let you have the last word.
All right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I'm not going to talk about the evils. Not the evils, but the future of automation. You're seeing that firsthand. You got plenty of IT stuff online. Marty Nicholson has it online. You need to get a skills. You need to get some wealth. You need to get it fast, because while these neo-Confederate Nazis are marching everywhere, the biggest threat to you is still gentrification, and that will wipe you out faster than anything else on earth. So get your wealth and get it fast. Other than that, be one, family. Take care.
Life first, brother. And of course, you definitely, if you want the definitive explanation about gentrification, go to our website, blackchannelfilms.com. That's Black Channel Films, spelled the way it sounds, Black, BLACK, blackchannelfilms.com. Check out our documentary series 7 a.m. and our new film, Gentrified, Ethnic Cleansing American Style. It explains it. It is the very first and only documentary ever that deals with gentrification as a racial issue. The only one ever. The first of its kind and the only one out there that deals with it in depth. It's not conspiracy theories. It's not tinfoil hats. This is academic. It is documented. People are raving about it. It's time for you to go see it, and you can actually rent it. Try it before you buy it, but get it now. BlackChannelFilms.com. Caller from 561, you're on live with the Black Channel.
How you doing? It's Thomas from Seattle.
Thomas from Seattle, what's on your mind?
Yeah, I wanted to go on about this whole how the coons are basically in complete nuclear meltdown mode. I know you had shown the tweet of Jamila Lemieux and her foolishness deciding to bring up R. Kelly. With the whole R. Kelly thing and the feminists, what I'm confused about is that why do they never talk about Woody Allen? Because, I mean, Woody Allen is still one of the most powerful men in Hollywood, and he married his ex-wife's daughter. So you talk about sickness in men. Why don't y'all ever go after Woody Allen?
The reason that they don't talk about white men is because they're powerless over white men. You see, white society will help a sick, demented, emotionally unbalanced harpy like Jamila Lemieux. They will assist her in going after a black man like she did Nate Parker. They'll help her do that. But they'll put the brakes on her. Understand something. Jamila Lemieux gets her daily bread from white people. She's worked for white people her whole life in the media as their black friend and their black representative. And the day that she bears her fangs at white men, they will instantaneously turn off the spigot. Now, you got to understand, in the jobs that individuals like her and Goldie Taylor and the rest of their psychotic ilk have, those jobs are all contract jobs. Do you understand? The media outlets they work for, those are all contract jobs. What does that mean? That means she could be fired tonight. They could tonight say, we are not going to renew Jamila's contract and we're changing the locks next week. She literally could wake up and she's got no income and no way of replacing it in the capacity that she works for these people. And she could be let go for any reason or no reason at all. That's what happened at Ebony and Jet and all these places where they're throwing these people out left and right. They just are being told, you're not coming back. We're not happy with the way things are going. We're not happy with what we see, and deuces. So she gets her daily bread from these people. And she knows who she can bear her fangs at and who she can't. She is powerless against white men. First of all, she's looking to get a white sponsor. Second of all, even if she weren't looking for a white sponsor, which she is, she's powerless against them. She has no power. So all of her inner hate and rage and vitriol, she redirects that at another powerless group, black men. Because that's what cowards do. Cowards don't go after big targets. Cowards go after weak people. They go after, or at least they go after people they think they can beat. Even if they get their ass handed to them, they go after people they think they can beat. So Jamila Lemieux is the worst type of putrid coward because she knows who the bad guys are, but she is going to be a collaborator with them. Long as she can get her little measly rent, because remember, she put up on, now I want you all to remember, Jamila Lemieux posted on Twitter that she was on Section 8 once, remember? For those of you who've forgotten about that.
I didn't even see that. She did?
No, she talked about her mom and stuff. Oh, Jamila Lemieux. For everybody who's out there listening to me, am I making that up? No, she made it very, very clear. She comes from humble little beginnings. She comes from humble little beginnings. She made that very clear. So, brother, understand something. The hate runs deep. The powerlessness runs deep. And when you've been in her position, it leaves a mark on you where you feel eternally deficient. And she's sitting next to white women, wishing she could have what they have. So she's going to do the I hate black men talk too. She's going to do that also.
Well, yeah, that's because she's just completely so far gone under the boot of white supremacy. It's kind of sad. Because, like, does she even know she's being victimized too? I don't even think she knows that. Because for her to get on, like, the Breakfast Club and say black men are, like, the leading depth of black women, which is so absurd that anytime you hear it, like, your brain should explode. But,
no,
like,
you have to understand.
Do you think she even believes that she's a victim too?
No. She does not believe that she's a victim. She believes that she has an other status. That's what intersectional means. Intersectional means I'm not black. That is the bottom line. Intersectional means I'm not black. Now, you can very clearly see this dumb wench and see she's black. But intersectional is a desperate, psychological, pathetic attempt to try to define your obvious blackness as something else because you hate yourself so much that you can't stand to look in the mirror and identify a black person. So you retreat into a fantasy and a lie. So they say, oh, I'm black and female. And that's the species, is black, female. I'm a separate group. I'm not part of this other one. So you see, in her mind, no, she's not black. In her mind, she's something else. Now she comes parachuting among black folk to say, hey, black folk, get behind me and my intersectional agenda. But she does not identify as a black person. She never has. And that's why white society is so eager to talk to her, because she's no threat. She's desperate to be with them. She hates black people as much as they do. I'll let you have the last word.
So yeah, I just want to say, let's stop focusing on the feminists. They're nothing but a distraction. It's hard times out here, man. I'm even seeing women, clearly black-looking women, talking about they're trying to pass themselves as white. I mean, it's absurd. Everyone needs to remember, like,
I'm not sure what happened to your phone, but your phone.
Family.
Thank you. It sounds like you're. So all of a sudden, it went from sounding good to sound like you're at an auction. Calling 55, calling 55, calling 65, calling 65, calling 65, 65, 65, 65. Can I get 75? Okay. Caller from 323. You're on live with the Black Channel.
Hello?
Hello, you're on live.
Jason? Oh, hi, Jason. I'm a first-time caller. My name is Janae. I'm calling from Los Angeles.
Okay.
How are you?
Did you say your name is Janae?
No, Danae.
Danae. Okay, Danae, welcome. Calling in from Los Angeles. What's on your mind?
Okay, so I watched that interview today with Andrew Young, and I damn near spit out my coffee when I heard him say, you know, he can't condemn the Klan members, and basically sympathizing with, you know, poor whites. But my thing is, not only did I see him, I saw him and a couple of other, like, black politicians on other channels, and I'm just curious, like, your thoughts about what is going on with, like, these cowardly men, from, like, Van Jones crying on national TV to the other guy on CNN, I don't know his name, crying on, I think it was on Fox News he was crying. But I'm, as a black woman, single black woman at that, I'm just like, where are the men of valor at? What's up with all these cowards?
You got to understand something. They vet you before they bring you on television. You don't end up on TV by accident. They vet you before you get there. And the people who show up week after week, the Van Joneses and the Michael Eric Dysons and the rest of their ilk, they're not on TV. Get this through your heads, people. They are not on TV because they're going to say something groundbreaking or revolutionary. They're bringing them on because they already know what they're going to say. Michael Eric Dyson is not going to accuse Donald Trump of being a white supremacist. He's going to talk in highfalutin academic terms. He's not going to say, look, this is a racist, white supremacist bastard in the White House. It's that simple. And that's why you haven't heard any black people speak in that way. They know who they're getting on TV. They know who to bring them on and when not to bring them on. They had David Banner on CNN for 5 minutes. That's it. Shuffled in, shuffled out. Nobody gave him a 15. Nobody has given David Banner or Umar Johnson a 15-minute, 20-minute interview on CNN. Nobody's doing that. They know what to do. They know what not to do. They know what to ask. They know what not to ask. Van Jones is begging for a damn TV show. That's his baby. All these people are trying to break into show business. Michael Eric Dyson wants a TV show. He's trying to do this thing now. Was that Raw Talk or the Raw Deal or the Raw whatever, the Raw Word? Michael Eric Dyson didn't go in on Bill Maher because Michael Eric Dyson wants to be where Bill Maher is sitting. He wants to be on television. Van Jones is not going in on white supremacy because Van Jones wants to be on television. Jamila Lemieux, Kwame Ture, we can go down the list. The fella you were talking about who's crying on Fox and whatnot, that Negro's been doing that for years. They get these soft, effete dudes up there. They know what they're doing. They just want to get a job on television. You're sitting up here waiting for them to speak for black folk, and he's trying to get hired. And it should be no surprise when you talk about crying on TV. If you'll all remember, because I was the guy and folk hated it when I did it, but I did it proudly, and I would do it again here tonight. Goldie Taylor, just weeks before she got fired at MSNBC, she was on television crying too. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to remind you all of that? Okay, Goldie Taylor was on MSNBC crying too. She was trying to get enough attention, to get enough shine so that she could stand out because she knew that they were going to be shuffling people around at MSNBC, and she was hoping that she would be able to springboard from being a commentator to getting a full-time job, and MSNBC gave it to Chris Hayes. All them Negroes begging for a job. And ultimately, they wound up giving it to not just one white dude, but a bunch of white dudes. And then when it was time to reshuffle people, they ran to Fox and grabbed Greta Van Susteren and Megyn Kelly. Tamron Hall was so sure that she had it made in the shade, drinking lemonade with a spade. And I'm on the Today Show, and they said, "No, your ass is gone. We'll take Megyn Kelly." And the ratings went in the nosedive. So understand, every time the word comes around that they're going to reshuffle the deck chairs on the Titanic, Negroes at these networks start jockeying for position. Because they know that if they come out with a full-throated articulation of black empowerment and anti-white supremacist talk, that they're just went your potential show. Because they are not going to sit up here and get sponsors to pay millions of dollars to promote black empowerment and attack white supremacy. They are not going to give you a platform to do that. They're just not.
Right. And not just, these, academics, these people who are trying to get jobs, but what I'm noticing is like just your everyday average Joe. I mean, I'm hearing, I heard a black man the other day say, when they were talking, now, the media, everybody's now saying white supremacy, which people were denying that prior to the Charlottesville event. But now I heard a black man talk about, well, all we want is, respect and acceptance. And I'm like, that's not what I want. I don't care less if I'm accepted by white society. I mean, I grew up in an old white state. I grew up in Salt Lake City. So there's nothing that I'm, striving to get. There's nothing that I want from white society. I know who I am, and I know that I'm a human being. I don't need the white society to tell me, but it's just concerning that you're starting to see, it seems like black women are, and that black woman that got arrested in Durham for tearing down participating in tearing down the statue. But it seems like black women are like stepping up more than it is that black men are doing.
Bull crap! Whoa, slow down! Whoa! Back up! You must have missed. I've heard this garbage before. Name for me one victory against white supremacy that these black. Tell me these black women who are winning a victory against white supremacy. Tell me.
No, I'm not.
That's not what No. We're not doing. We're not doing that today. Danae, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Listen, it seems to me that black women are stepping up more than black men. Show me. Don't tell me. Show me who.
I mean, like I said, the example of the lady in Durham. But let me just say
No. Okay, you gave your example. The example of the lady in Durham. Which one?
Yeah. the girl that is getting arrested for putting the rope around the statue.
Okay. They pulled down a Confederate statue in Durham, North Carolina, and they've arrested like 8 people, I think it is. Not just one.
But she was the first.
Okay, she was the first. She was the first of many.
Right.
And now here's the other. Whoa. Stop, Danae. You made an assertion. Now you can't just make assertions and then, well, let me just keep talking. No. You made an assertion. And your assertion was you see black women out here performing symbolic acts and getting arrested.
Right.
And that to you, that was the example you gave, not me. That to you is defined as doing more than black men. That's what you define that as? Or that you see that as being more active than black men? That's the definition? Because you and I we can talk about it. Well, we can talk about it if we have a common frame of reference. Now, if all you're going to do is run around and dance around and say, well, I gave that as an example, but that's not really what I meant, then give me one that is an actual example that you mean that you're actually going to stand by. Because if you're going to give examples and then not stand by them, don't give the example.
I get you. I hear what you're saying. Maybe that wasn't like the best example, but what I want
find
to
one.
Make sure I put out.
Well, if you said it, you must have had a reason for saying it. So find one.
Well, I'm not condoning it. Like, that's not my thing. Like, I don't like to see, or I don't like to, I don't like to see that black women are putting themselves in a position to fight. Like, I don't like to see that when I'm seeing like the protests and I'm seeing like black just in the media, just seeing black women like in the forefront. I don't like to see that.
Okay, but whoa, you said stop. You said seeing black women in the forefront. If I'm in the media and see them in the forefront, in the media, what is the media? The media is you sitting on the other side of a camera. The white folk have the cameras. They're the ones who decide who gets on television. So you're saying that you're going to define who was most active by who white people put a camera in front of? Because you're acting as if the white folk were given equal opportunity to everybody and there were just a bunch of women there and the men were just AWOL. Now we come to the truth is, well, the white folk put more women, or at least I noticed more women, because there may have been more men, but maybe you didn't even notice. White folk put more women in front of the cameras, so that to me is evidence that the women were more active. Now, you just gave that as an example, and that's what you said. Now, this is what I just said a moment ago. I wonder if we're going to start running from this one, too, because that was the example you just gave. But now you ran from the other. You ran from the other one. You gave this as an example, and I just said a moment ago, don't give it as an example if you're not going to stand by it. Are we going to run from this one, too?
Yes, maybe I misspoke, or maybe I didn't, articulate what I was trying to say.
You meant exactly what you said. You fell for the bait. You saw exactly what you wanted to see. You wanted to believe that black men are, quote unquote, not doing enough, or that the women are, quote, doing something. The white dudes ran a damn Dodge Challenger over 20 people. What did the women do to defeat that?
Right, nothing. And like I said, I'm not.
We got black men like DeAndre Harris on video got beat down by a group of white supremacists. Where were the females to save him?
Right.
He got his head. Whoa. Stop. He got his head busted open. If the women were more active than the men, where were the women?
It's true. It's true.
Because we can. That's not. I just said a name. I just gave you a name. That was not hyperbole. That was not pulling something out of my ear. I just gave you a specific name and a specific instance and a specific place that happened, and I'm standing by it. The men were out there going fist to fist with them. The problem is that in a situation like that, you had the police helping the white supremacists. That's the problem. Right. So let us stop this insanity that black women are somehow separate and apart from black men. Because the bottom line is that what went down in Charlottesville, there wasn't a single female that changed the dynamic. Except one.
No, there wasn't.
Well, no, except one. There was one female that changed everything in Charlottesville. Heather Heyer. The white woman. There isn't a single black female that of any consequence who showed up in Charlottesville. Not a single one. Not one.
Right.
Not even one. Show me what the game changer was that the females brought to Charlottesville. Tell me so that I will be clear in the future. What was the game changer that happened because of the presence of the females?
Well, there wasn't.
And that's my point. So if you're going to make the statement that the women did something that the men didn't, or that it seems this way or that way, that's impugning the character of the men. What I'm telling you is, I'm very glad that people showed up in Charlottesville to the extent that they did. I don't think that anybody should have a situation where white supremacists are showing up and some show of resistance shouldn't be there. However, this attempt to try to split off black men from black women and identify black men and black women separately, that's division.
No, and that's
we should not even be acknowledging it. We are black.
Right.
We are black people.
Maybe, I mean, like I said, I didn't articulate myself well and misspoke, because I'm definitely not the type to cause any sort of divisions. If anything, I want to see black men and black women more unified, more together. I guess I was just feeling a little discouraged when you do see like the men like Andrew Young, the Van Jones, these types of people, and like some of the average Joes that I'm kind of listening to seem very scared, and they seem kind of like they don't really want to deal with the reality of the situation. So, like I said, slow down. But that you're talking about the men. There were a bunch of females. Donald Trump has trotted out no less than 3 black females. 3 black females. Let me say that one more time. Donald Trump in the last 5 days has trotted out no less than 3 black females to defend him. No less than 3. I've seen them on Fox. I saw one on CNN. Bill Maher in real time. He had some chick named Holmes from Rasmussen reports. Some light-skinned female with natural hair. Natural hair is the new Bedouin's uniform. He had some chick there sitting there virulently defending Donald Trump, and we're not sure he's a racist and all this old mess. And Andrew Breitbart was not a racist. He was a great Jewish guy. These were females. So like I say, I don't know what you've been looking at, but this is why I said I think what happened is you saw what you wanted to see. You wanted to see black men as insufficient or deficient. You've overlooked all these females who've been on TV coming to Donald Trump's rescue, and you're focusing on the black men who are speaking against Donald Trump, but not as forcefully as you like, and the females have gotten a pass. And what I'm saying is you need to check your heart on this. Because there's an animosity toward black men there that doesn't help anybody except the white supremacists. Right, and the females that you're talking about, maybe I didn't see those. I know those two women that he always has, those 2 little shields.
No, not Diamond and Silk. No, not Diamond and Silk. I'm talking about commentators. That's why I was saying names. If you all go watch Bill Maher's Real Time that was on Saturday, I think it was, he had this light-skinned female named Holmes who was on there. She works for Rasmussen. She was doing it. There's this dark-skinned black female who was debating somebody. I forget who it was. She was on Fox. She's got a hyphenated black last name. You'll all look her up. I want to say her last name is like Hayes or something like that. Hayes or Kayes or something. It's like 5 letters. Dark-skinned black female with nappy, dried out ends. She's sitting up here I posted on Twitter. As a matter of fact, I want to say I shared it on Twitter. This chick was ridiculous. Not ridiculous, but ridiculous. These are black females. So like I say, if you're gonna play that game, you literally would have had to only acknowledge the men and completely, utterly disregard literally everything else. And I'm like, how could that have happened unless you walked out there planning to just overlook them? Because that's literally the only, that is literally the only way that could have occurred.
Well, I follow you on Twitter, so I'll have to go back through your Twitter feed and see that. But I'm not trying to separate. I'm not trying to give the black woman a pass. That's what I said. I feel like I didn't really articulate my point well. But I will go back and I will look at those things too. And I hold black women just as accountable, like that crazy post that Jamel Mu, put up about R. Kelly, that random post. And I hold them just as accountable. I'm not just saying it's a black man thing, it's a black woman thing. I hold both accountable. I'm just saying what I have noticed, and maybe you're right. Maybe I just kind of saw what I wanted to see and not really looked at both sides. So I will take responsibility.
Well, think about this for a moment, Danae. Think about this. If this had been a bunch of Latinos out there, and even if there had been nothing but Latina females out there, no Latino males, no men whatsoever, would you be able to get a Latina female to stand up and say what you said just now? Well, we were out there, but where were the men? I wonder where the men were. Would you be able to, as a black person, could you get a Latina female to sit there in front of you and say, where were the men? I mean, there were some there, but I feel like we were doing the heavy lifting. Could you have ever gotten that to occur?
No.
So when I talk about what the problem is, I'm not talking about what you believe you're saying or whatever. I'm saying take a look at what's actually happening there. You literally could not have gotten any other group of people to have their women come out and say something like that against the men, even if the men had been completely absent. If you had tried to divide them and tried to get them to say, well, see, where were your men at? The women would have checked your ass and would have said, oh, the men, they would have told you that the men were fully supporting us, even if there wasn't a single man there. They would have done that.
No,
in black society, there's this debate.
I'm not against black men. That's what like I said, I probably didn't articulate. I'm not against black men at all. So I don't want it to come across that I'm one of those type of chicks, and I'm not. So I don't think you believe yourself to be that. I don't think you feel that. I don't know you well enough to be able to say that necessarily. I do know one thing, that when black men showed up to stop the Nazis who came walking down the street in Houston, I didn't hear you say, yeah, but where were the women? The women should have been there to support the men. That never gets said. I heard about that. I was actually excited to hear that. I was excited to hear that. I wasn't going to be like, oh, women should have been there too. No, if anything, there was that one.
That's the problem.
One clip of some. I think it was out here in California, and I think Alaska. They were trying to get into some sort of like meeting, and there was a black woman that was. The guy kept trying to push her back into the conference room, and she just kept trying to push her way through. And in my head, I'm thinking, like, why don't you just sit down? Let the men handle it. Like, I'm
Danae,
that type of woman. Like, if I saw that,
I gotta ask you something.
Tell the woman to sit down.
I gotta ask you something. I have to. Are you on my?
Go ahead, Jason.
Are you on my Facebook friends list?
I want to be. I've been trying to get on your Facebook friends.
Okay.
I like your stuff all the time, but
slow down. Slow down. Have you sent me a friend request?
Yes, it's still pending.
You sure? You know what? I'm gonna go look it. Well, I don't know if I can look it up. How do you spell your first name?
Dennae.
And I would like to preserve that as much as I can. Dennae. Shouldn't be too many of those.
No, just DENNAE.
Okay. I don't see that under my friends, but here's what I want you to do, okay? Because I want to be able to find you for a reason. Why don't you cancel your friend request and just resend it to me?
Okay.
No fuss, no muss. Yes, right this second.
Okay. Okay.
Because
I've been wanting to get on your list.
Yeah, but you're gonna be on it tonight. That's for certain.
I follow you on Twitter. I'm on your Twitter page.
Is it the same name?
It's just D. I'm the one that posts. I post a lot of GIFs.
You post a lot of GIFs.
The one when you put a.
Are you? What you Deshaun?
I love those things. Huh?
Are you Deshaun?
No.
Okay.
There's an actual picture of me. I just call it D. My name is Empowered Black Gal.
Okay. Now I do think I saw that today. Now that one I do think I actually did see today. As a matter of fact, which is just crazy on my part. Maybe I need more of a life. I guess I'm keeping up with stuff like that. But I do remember. I do remember seeing that.
I'm gonna add you again. So I just canceled it. So now I'm adding you.
Magnanimous.
Requested.
There you go. Hello, Danae.
Are you gonna stop my?
Am I gonna what?
Yay!
Am I gonna what?
You're not gonna be stalking my page. Are you gonna be stalking my page?
Stalking your page? Why would I stalk your page?
You never know.
Okay. Well,
sometimes I get stalked.
Well, if you're really interesting, maybe you might get lucky. I don't know. Besides that, I can't really say. So that would just be a different matter for me. But there was one thing I did want to see. I wanted to see on your page because what I start looking for in some of the things I heard, I start looking for two things. And I don't like to accuse somebody of something that's not true. Because that's not cool.
Okay.
That's not cool, okay?
I kind of think I know what you're going to ask, but go ahead.
No. But I would like to ask you one question. Who's Sean Zakin?
Sean Bacon.
Zakin. Zaken. You don't know who Sean is?
I don't know.
Okay, that's very interesting because on August 10, 2014, near Los Angeles, you were on what looks like a bus, and he has his leg wrapped around you. Wonderful Irish-looking fella. But, by the way, I'm just saying, wonderful Irish-looking fella. I'm sure he's a fine, upstanding gentleman. I couldn't help but notice that your arms are wrapped around him, and he's literally got you between his legs, literally, while standing up. So you don't remember somebody who you were between his legs?
No.
In 2014, you don't remember?
I know that, Jake. I know what you're talking about. Now you just described it. That was my friend's, she had like a little party bus.
It sounds like you and him were having your own party. It sounds like you and Sean were having your own party on the party bus. That's what it looks like to me.
The one thing I noticed, you said something in your post that you don't have white friends. I have white friends.
This looks like more than a friend, girl. He literally has his crotch on yours. Literally, that's a friend.
I know that was. And I'm explaining it to you what it was.
Okay, I'm saying you refer to that as friendship. He literally has his crotch on yours. That's friendship? Because that sounds like sounds like friends with benefits.
No.
Yes. Girl, you don't get down like that. We got photographic. We have photographic evidence you get down like that. What are you talking about? You sound like Donald Trump now. Oh, wait a minute. I don't do this. We got the damn photographs.
Listen. Yes, I have. Yes, I hang out. Yes, that picture is true. I remember that day. We were all a little intoxicated. It was on a party bus. We were having a good time. That was when. Hold on. That is in my, I would say, my coonish moment. I'm not gonna lie. I won't deny it. Yes, that what you're seeing in that picture is true. What you're seeing in that picture is true. Now that was a couple of years ago. So yes,
couple of years.
I don't know him personally. That was my friend. I don't like hang out with them like that. It was just that moment.
It was that's a hell of a moment. that was a hell of a moment.
It was.
I'm just saying, I'm not here to drag your name. I'm not here to drag your name through the mud. I just thought I'd bring up. By the way, that's a hell of. You can't help but be. You're talking about I'm being honest. You can't help but be honest. There's a damn photograph. What are you talking about? I'm being honest. What you gonna do? Lie about it? It's right there.
I've heard women on your show. Hold on, Jason. I've heard women on your show before deny stuff all the time. I'm not gonna deny it. Like, yes, what you see is what you see. Yes, I get it. I've heard women deny stuff all the time. I'm like, well, he's just pointing stuff out, and they're still denying it. I'm not denying what you're seeing. Like,
okay, well,
yes, it was a white boy. Yes, his crosses around me, whatever, on a party bus, and it was a good time. I'm not even gonna lie.
It was a good time. I'm glad it was a good time. I'm glad a good time was had by all. I wouldn't want you to not be having a good time there. By the way, don't get me wrong. I would not want you to not have a good time. I want everybody here to have a good time and have good times, and apparently good times had you. So that's good right there. You have a lot of white associates, especially
yes, I do.
Especially Holly, and I'm sure that Holly is a fine, upstanding individual. I don't have any problem with her. She's a white woman. I just sat here and did a whole broadcast last night. I am not going to demean the sacrifices of Heather Heyer. That young woman did more against white supremacy than Barack Obama did in 8 years. So Heather, I have no problem with you, Holly. I mean, you're no problem with that. I have no problem with Ivy either. I have no problem with Ivy.
Ivy's just
I have no problem with Ivy. Ivy looks like good people. She looks like a wonderful Spanish lass. Nothing wrong with Ivy. Right next to the chick with the Jeanne haircut. Nothing wrong with that. Do you get my damn point here for a moment, Danae? I'm just gonna stop here for a minute. But are you picking up when I'm putting down?
Yes.
Okay. And by the way, I haven't been to Kinky Boots, but if I ever make a wrong damn turn in Los Angeles, I imagine I'll end up at Kinky Boots. Where the gals are.
I like going to musicals.
Apparently, the gals are freakishly tall at this place. They look like giants from the Old Testament. What in the world is going on at this place? You gotta be 6 foot, 7 foot something tall to qualify for a job. No wonder unemployment's so damn high. But in any case,
okay, Jason. Just because I have a plethora of non-black.
Okay, thank you, because I was just about to get to the GTC crew. I was just about to get to the GTC crew back in 2015. Hello, Amanda, Jackie, and Sarah, which, by the way, they look like they're going to start, that Wilson Phillips. It looks like Wilson Phillips. For those of you who don't remember your 80s, 90s pop groups, go look up Wilson Phillips and get ready for his prize. But in any case, like I say, and there you are sitting next to them this is like a weird, distorted Spice Girls, and you're the black one, Only everything's just screwed up and distorted. Yeah. So, and by the way, I couldn't help but notice you smile a lot. I mean,
that's because I have a nice smile.
No, I mean you smile big. No, I mean you smile big. I mean everything is teeth. I mean you smile. This. I mean,
because I'm a happy person.
When Sean had his leg wrapped around you, that was a grin. And wait a minute. I forgot one over here. I almost forgot one over here. I'm just saying.
I knew you were gonna do this.
I'm not doing anything. I'm looking at your Facebook page. That's doing something. What am I doing? What am I doing?
I knew you were gonna do this.
Okay,
you're dissecting why you're.
So it's not legitimate. It's not legitimate to take a look at where you're at your life. That's not legitimate?
Hey, Jason, do what you do best. I'll answer any question you want. Go ahead.
I'm doing it. No, I don't have any questions, my dear. I've just got answers. That's all. I'm just saying, well, everybody's happy. We smiling big. Sean is definitely where he wanted to be. He found his brown sugar. So, like I say, I mean, hey, if you like it, it's all good. I want you and Amanda and the rest of the crew. I wouldn't want to break up, I wouldn't want to break up the Spice Girls. So I wouldn't want to see that happen.
No. See, here's the thing. Okay. Right. You'll look at, if you continue to look, you'll see, yes, I've been around a lot of white people. Yes, I have a very, eclectic group of associates and friends. But that doesn't mean that I don't still have which I always have. Just because I've always been around white people, I've always had a black first mindset. I've never been a coon. I've never, ever, ever had that type of mentality.
Now you say you've never been a coon. Now just a few moments ago, you said the exact opposite.
I know you're going to make the connection.
No, you said I'm not making any connection. You said it. You said with Sean, you were in your coon phase.
Well, okay, yes, not a coon in the sense where I would.
Oh, now we're parsing the word. Now we're parsing the word coon. There's multiple definitions. There's nuances. Here we go.
Well, yeah, I never. Okay, this is what I'm trying to say. The way you perceive, or the way you talk about coons, the way I've seen them, I've never been that type of person, because I've never, even when I'm around white people and they said some, because no matter what, even if you're around them, they're always going to say some sort of racist stuff, no matter whether they think they're non-racist or not. They always say stuff. And it's been my experience that I've always checked them on that, too. Sean looks like you
checking the hell out of him in 2014, by the way. As far as a white man using you for his brown sugar, he looked with his leg wrapped around you. Yeah, you look like you was checking the hell out of him.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you're the only fly in the sea of buttermilk, and most of the time I've always been everybody's first black friend. Wait. Danae,
how long have you lived? Because you said you were from Utah, correct?
Yeah.
A black Mormon. Okay, here we go. How long have you lived in Los Angeles?
11 years.
Okay, so you didn't just show up in LA last night. And for a black person to be in Los Angeles and to be surrounded by practically nothing but non-black people, that's not an accidental fly in a sea of buttermilk. That's a choice in friends and associations.
Correct. Because I've always been around white people most of my life. Yes, it's not easier, but I can easily move into that type of realm. Yes.
Okay.
I've been told before that even though I'm black, I don't seem black. And I've checked people on
Okay,
that.
yeah, I'm about to say, that's not a compliment. That's when somebody says, even though you're black, you don't seem black, that's not a compliment. You have to understand, there's always...
No, that's why I've always checked them. I don't find that to be a compliment. Actually, I don't find that to be a compliment.
There is always...
I never had.
There is always an opening for coons. Always.
Mm-hmm.
A coon will always have an opening. Always.
Mm-hmm.
A coon will never find themselves without work. At a small level. Now, they can't hit the big leagues. There's only a few spots at the big leagues. But
none of those people have ever employed me.
Dear, I didn't say money. I wasn't referring to money.
Oh, okay.
If a white man is looking for some brown sugar, there's an opening for some coons. There's an opening.
And the only time I've ever hooked up with a white boy was when my first year in college, and I was 18 years old.
And then Sean. Don't forget him.
I didn't hook up with Sean.
Don't lie. Don't lie on your.
Sean, first of all,
don't lie. Don't lie on your.
That dude is gay.
Do not lie on your panties. You are lying on your drawers. Do not lie on them.
Not lying. The dude is gay.
And that means what?
She's in the industry.
Whoa, and that means what? He's gay, and that means what?
I'm not going to hook, even if I was attracted to him, I'm not going to hook up with a gay white dude.
Oh, come on.
Jason, you're stretching now. No.
Okay, you say I would never hook up with him. He's literally got his crotch on yours, but you talking about what you wouldn't do sexually with him. Are you serious?
As a heart attack.
Okay, well, I hope your ass don't fall over because this photograph up here is pretty good for a heart attack to redeem for one myocardial infarction right now.
As a heart attack. You're just looking at one picture at one
I'm
time.
looking at a whole damn album of pictures. What you talking about one picture? And this is, by the way, no. We're not going to play that game either, Danae. If we have this picture right here and there's nothing but white folk around you for years and years, this was not your first time doing it. This was just your first time getting caught.
Well, I would admit, yeah.
Thank you.
I'm not denying that.
Thank you.
But I'm not saying I hooked up with Sean that night.
Okay,
I met him.
No, I'm sure it was another night in question. But my point is, Sean's hit the lottery once or twice here, and I'm not saying there's anything bad about it. Go ahead and do your thing. They're trisexual, they're bisexual. Watch out for the STDs. But other than that, right there, I'm just saying, hey, go ahead and do your thing and bring, Valencia and Andrea and Holly and whatever y'all do, and y'all are dancing or whatever on the party bus.
Okay, let me explain this. When I first moved out here, I didn't know anybody. I moved out here.
You found Sean.
I went after I graduated from school. Listen, I went to school in Kansas, and when I graduated from Kansas State, I moved out here, and I didn't know anybody. So what I did was I joined. I joined the league. And I joined a football league out here in Venice, and that's how I kind of met a lot of people. And now you're playing,
now you're playing pass receiver for Sean, which is good. That's good. Now you're Sean's main receiver, and that's cool. Look, no problem with that at all. What I'm saying is that do you understand now that this puts into context your entire phone call?
Yes.
Okay. Now, here, contrary to popular belief, no, I am not going to excommunicate her because this is not a field trip. This is a hospital. This is where current coons and reformed coons come to get well. Welcome to the ministry. Welcome to the Brotherhood Charities of Black Channel Medical Centers. We are the specialists in America at exposing and de-cooning bedwenches, hoes, coons, sambos, idiots of assorted stripes. You have come to the right place. Well, I'm not going to say you're a bedwench. I'm going to say you have bedwench trait. Okay, you got bedwench trait, and that genetic trait is an insipid thing. This could develop into full blown coonism. So it's kind of like having cancer.
I'll be honest with you.
Right now you got the colon. Right now you have.
I'll be honest.
No. Right now you have coon colon polyps. Okay, for anybody who knows anything about rectal cancer, there's colon polyps. And if you can catch the polyp, you can stop the rectal cancer. Well, right now, Danae, you've got coon colon polyps, okay? And what I am going to do is I am going to prescribe a healthy regimen for us. We are going to have to give you a colonoscopy. We are going to have to check in with you every month because you are going to require extreme attention. Do you understand?
I thank you.
Okay. So,
and you know what, honestly, Jason, I'll be honest, I have been shedding some of my stuff. Like, I've been learning. I've had to reflect on my life up until now, and I've had to reflect on maybe what I've ignored throughout my life. And I was introduced to you through my sister, and I started listening to you, and I liked your program, and I was like, you know what? I was thinking, where have I been? Like, what have I been doing? Obviously, between Sean's legs, maybe that's where I've been. But I realized that, part of I have been conditioned to not necessarily want to be around white people, but I almost, in some ways, felt more comfortable being around them. And I think it's probably because I grew up in Utah. And being the only black person in my own class, or anywhere you go out there, you're probably going to be the only black person there because the population in Salt Lake City is about 2%. So, yes, I've heard that before. Some of my black friends have said, Danae, you know a lot of white people. And I would just say, oh, I just know how to speak their language. Because I'm just...
No, look, that's a plus. Okay, look, that's a plus. I don't blame you for where you were born. I don't blame you for how you were born. I don't even blame you if you did some silly stuff because you didn't have any outside influences whatsoever. But in the words of Louis Farrakhan, that when you are a child, you speak as a child. When you're an adult, you speak as an adult. And it is important that you understand these things, but you must also understand that once you know something, and once you understand something, no matter what happened to you before now, you are now responsible for your understanding. So that was where you were. That was where you were. This is where you are. And I don't know what was going on before we got here, although from these pictures it looked pretty bad. But I don't know what was going on before you got here. However, Daddy's home. And whatever was going on before now, that goes by the wayside. You're over here now. But understand one thing. I give all coons and whatnot, whether it was Melissa or whatever, you get one opportunity to turn from the coon side. You get one. I will give, because we live in a white supremacist system. Do you know how much work it would take for a person to grow up and not succumb to it on some level? You are inundated with it. You are saturated with it. If you were in Utah, that was it. You thought you were one of them. You had no exterior frame of reference. I'm not going to prosecute you or persecute you for that. But now that you're here, you get one opportunity to turn from that crap. You get one. Now you come over here and start talking the coon stuff. You come over here after you've been given, you get one pass. I give you the white supremacy system pass. That because you were born in this wicked system, I'm not going to blame you for what you were before you met us. But if you're going to be a new creature with us, you don't get to bounce back again. So let's be very clear on this. You get one opportunity to do something like tonight. Just one. Because you ain't, stop. You have never been in a room full of white women where you could manipulate them into talking about white men like you did here. Because I saw a bunch of white women in Charlottesville also, and they'd have checked you with the extreme quickness if you had done something like that. So for those of you, like I said, for those of you who come from families where black identity was not very strongly stressed, where you've done some stuff out here that is suspect and downright coonish or whatever, I will give you one pass because I understand. I'm not sitting up here saying, oh boy, you were swirling and you were doing this, that, and the other and you're worthless. I will not do that because I understand the system that we're in, because there's a bunch of black folk who have never dated interracially, have never been a Republican, never been on Fox News, and they're more dangerous than any damn thing else. The NFL is full of them. Look at Michael Vick. The NFL is full of them. So we can't make this narrow definition of it like that because we'll die. I understand it. But now that you understand, you will be responsible for your understanding henceforth and forevermore. So how do you make sure you stay on the good foot? How do you make sure you don't get off and get off track again? How do you make sure that doesn't happen? I'll explain to you how you make sure that doesn't happen. You do more listening than talking, and you watch everything you say and everything you do and get a second or third opinion because you've been raised without a frame of reference to blackness. You ain't got it now, and you haven't had it before, and you don't have it now. You need to check in on everything. Because even what you think you're doing correctly, you probably need to get a second opinion like a doctor. You probably need to get a second and third opinion on it.
I agree. But let me say one thing. My father was very adamant about teaching me and my siblings about blackness. Maybe in some point in my life I probably rebelled or I didn't really understand I couldn't really process what he was telling us growing up, because growing up in Utah, that was something that he drilled in our heads about feeling and loving being Black. But I guess as I got older, I wanted to figure life out for myself and in a way kind of rebel against what we've been taught. But now I'm coming back to myself. If that makes sense.
Time will tell. I'll let you have the last word.
Well, thanks for my call. I'm the first time caller, and I listen to you all the time. And I will take your advice and listen more and get second opinions. And I appreciate you taking my call.
Thank you for checking in. I expect to hear from you on a regular basis. No, brothers and sisters, it's not like that. I am not here to redeem every bedwench. I'm not here to give everybody absolution. That's not what I'm here for. But everybody, if they are sincere or not, it's too early to tell if she's sincere or not yet. Everybody deserves a chance to at least demonstrate, hey, I've been screwed up, man. I mean, this is something that, let me just stop for a minute here. This is something that all of us have to recognize. And I'm not speaking out of turn. I'm not speaking out of turn with Melissa. I mean, we talked about this publicly. My God, we've done videos about it. I'm not speaking out of turn. And a bunch of y'all been practicing coonery of different levels. So don't try to act like you're better than thou or better than somebody else. There's a bunch of y'all been doing it. There's a bunch of you that I told you years ago, stop patronizing the NFL, and it's only with Colin Kaepernick now they can start doing it. So don't try to sit up here and try to act like, oh, I got it so much on the ball that I don't have to give a chance to everybody else. No, everybody should have a chance to recognize when they're screwing up. Everybody should be given a chance to recognize we were all born, if you believe in the words of Neely Fuller, then you believe that we were all born into a prison called white supremacy. You born up indoctrinated and institutionalized as an inmate, just some of you more severely than others. Some of you have experienced a more severe institutionalization than other people. But those of you whose yours has been less, that doesn't make you better. Now, that doesn't mean that we dedicate our lives to reforming people. No, the hour is too late and we don't have time to argue with them. But if somebody is making an attempt to say, hey, you know, I've been butt dancing over here and I can't really drop this banjo just yet, but I got questions about some of this bull crap I'm doing because I see this as a problem. I see this as a problem. Now, when that happens, and all of us should be on deck for that. Everybody who's cooning out here is not necessarily swirling and ass kissing and stuff like that. There's different levels of it. And everybody's upbringing was not equally the same. So we all need to sit up here and say, I'll be the first one to sit up here and tell you, I'm not going to sit up here and grab people and just say, okay, I looked over your jacket and there's a bunch of mess going on here. I'm not the one to sit up here and say that. That's not what I do. That's not what I do here. I give people an opportunity. I say, okay, that's fine. You know what? Let's go ahead and check out what's going on. Let's check out what's going on. Let's see what they're about. And they should be given an opportunity to acknowledge that they're wrong. To acknowledge that they have been institutionalized by the system. And from there, it's going to be a 12-step program. Because the truth of the matter is they didn't become a coon because they knew it. They became one because they ate them. Man, I don't have a proper frame of reference. I thought that white society had all of the answers. So this is a complete re-education effort. And this is the continuing work. Dr. John Henrik Clark, Dr. Joseph Ben Yakanan, Malcolm X, Dr. Claude Anderson. We are continuing their work. Dr. Francis Cress Welsing in the ISIS papers, that was simply put a magnum opus to black identity. Black people don't know. at a base level. They're born into a prison not knowing. Neely Fuller's life has been dedicated to helping us to understand and be able to at least get the basic raw tools to define a black identity. So we shouldn't start smacking people around from day one and whatnot if they don't get it. Now, if they're not trying to get it, that's one thing. But if they make an effort, they should be allowed an opportunity to at least make the effort. Now, if they start screwing that up, you get one chance to jump back over here from the other side of the fence. I'll give you one. You go back over there, and that's it. We are understanding to a point. We're not understanding to a fault. Caller from 917. I'm going to have to run through these calls here real quick because we're going to run out of time in a minute. You're on live with the Black Channel. Okay, caller from 917 drop. Caller from 770, the land of Andrew Young. You're on live with the Black Channel.
Hey, what's going on? This is Ron from Atlanta.
Ron from Atlanta, what's on your mind?
Yes, it's funny that you brought up on Dr. Neely Fuller. Because I was listening to his show Wednesday, and he spoke something about how in Charlottesville you see white people protesting against white people, right?
Okay, let's move it along quickly, Ron. We're short on time, brother, so just give us the quick version.
Okay, he said that white supremacists put themselves on both sides of every argument, and I just been thinking, what did he mean by that?
Well, what he was saying was that they control both sides of every argument so that no matter what outcome you come out at, you're still under their control. That's the real point. I listened to the broadcast you were referring to, which was very difficult for me because Mr. Bobby keeps interrupting, and I don't like that. You tune in for Neely Fuller, and Mr. Bobby wants to sit up here and be amening, and he's chipping in, and I'm like, oh, man, it'd be nice to just hear Neely Fuller without the choir. But in any case, what he was referring to is what I've talked about here for years. We as black people get confused. You live in a white supremacist system, and when you see white supremacists battling each other for control of the system, you mistake that for one group is against the system. And you don't recognize it as a fight between factions within the system. It's like if you got, the crime families of the mafia. When the Bonanos or when the Gambinos went to war with anybody, because they're usually fighting amongst themselves, but if the Gambinos went to war with the Lucchese's, or if when Maranzano went to war with Masseria in the Castellamarese War, was Maranzano trying to destroy the mafia? Was Maranzano going after Masseria because Masseria was a mobster? No. He was going after Masseria because both of them are mobsters, but they were fighting over who would have the most power, wealth, and influence. And to you as outsiders, you might get confused. Oh, well, one of them is trying to destroy the mafia. No, neither one of them is trying to destroy it. They're both fighting over who will control it. And as black people, when you see feminists showing up for an event and the LGBTs showing up for an event, you'll mistake that they're walking with you, that they are against the Nazis over there. But just because somebody is against a Nazi or is against a Klansman, that doesn't mean that he's in favor of black empowerment. You see, these other people, what he meant by both sides, they have mastered the art of being able to manipulate all the pieces on the board. They don't have a problem walking with you and consciously knowing the whole time that the second I get what I want, I'm dropping this Negro. That's what black women found out with the white feminist movement. The white folks control both sides of it. The white men control the white male control, and the white women control the other side. So it didn't matter who, quote unquote, lost. White supremacy wins. That's the point he's trying to make. It doesn't matter who you count as the loser. At the end of the day, you will still be under a white supremacist system. You're focusing on the people. I don't want to be under Richard Spencer. I don't want to be under Christopher Cantwell. I don't want to be under David Duke. And so you trade them in for Gloria Steinem and Gloria Allred and Tim Wise. So congratulations on getting David Duke off your back. I'm sure things will go a lot better under Gloria Allred and her daughter Lisa Bloom, who are prosecuting black men left and right. I'm sure things will go much better there. How about your Democrat friends? Remember Bob McDonough, the prosecuting attorney in Ferguson? Democrat.
Yeah.
Tim McGinty, I believe he was a Democrat. Congratulations on getting those Republicans off your back. So you see, the white supremacist controls both sides. It doesn't matter which one of them you vote for. I'm not going to vote for George W. Bush. I'm voting for Bill Clinton. Well, okay, he controls both sides. You're looking at a person, but when you see it as a system, you realize he's got both sides pegged. It doesn't matter which way you go with the options that he presents to you. Bob McCullough was a Democrat. Tim McGinty was a Democrat. Anita Alvarez. Was Anita Alvarez a Democrat? I want to say Anita Alvarez was a Democrat too. We can go down the list. I don't want to just start naming our prosecuting attorneys. We can go down the list. But the bottom line is they control both sides. So we have to start choosing options that did not come from them. That's the mistake that we keep making, is we keep choosing the options that they define. Here, choose between Obama and McCain. Here, choose between Andrew Young and whoever else. And here, choose between the gays walking with you or the feminists walking with you. And then you can't figure out why it is that no matter what occurs, your circumstances don't change.
Yeah, because I've seen a lot of people on my Facebook page, you know, posting videos of all the thousands of white folks that were marching in Boston, and it just kept reminding me of what he said on the radio station Wednesday. And, you know, ever since he said it, I've just been trying to analyze it. And you broke it down perfectly for me so I can understand it in a way that makes sense to me.
Well, thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for your call. Please do call us again. Let me get caller from 516. You're on live with the Black Channel.
Jason?
Yes, that's me. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Yeah, I'm Lee. I'm calling from Long Island.
Okay, what'd you say your name was?
Echo, by the way. Lee.
Okay, Lee from Long Island. What'd you want to talk about?
Yeah, I'll make it brief. I mean, you had mentioned what I've always kind of thought, but it came more to light now that as I watched things transpire during the week, that the guys that they put on TV are vetted. I mean, they're basically, they don't put these guys on TV unless they actually know what they're going to say. I'm sure you probably heard about the Charles Barkley interview, because as you know, whenever anything goes on, any crisis goes on in Black America, we have to look for Charles for guidance. But he made a statement about it where he said, well, Black people don't. First of all, did you see the interview? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, where he said that Black people don't even care about the Confederate flag. But go ahead and make your point quick.
Yeah, he's saying, well, they don't think about it. I'm thinking, yeah, they don't think about it because they haven't been educated on it. And we've been brainwashed to the point where obviously we're not going to think about it all the time. But then he goes down and says, well, Black people need to think about education. We need to think about black not killing each other and money. Well, if we had the real education about this country, then we're going to know about what these monuments stand for and why they've been erected in the first place. And if we have the money that he claims that we need, and we need to know about that, then we'd have the money and influence to fight and take them down. So it's just, and a lot of people co-signed and said, yeah, he sounds like he makes sense. The fact is, he was just doing doublespeak. All
Well,
right?
the only people
When you
who
think about
co-signed him were white folk. Black people have been talking about Confederate flags and removing those monuments ever since the war was over. So only a person who just
But very
immigrated
quick-
in from Mars would say something like that. I'll let you have the last word.
But just one more point. When he said, well, black people don't think about it, and I don't think you played the last the interview with Andrew Young, where the interviewer said, oh yeah, Andrew Young said about the monuments that he doesn't really care about them and it'll cost too much money. I'm like, wow, that's not too different than what Charles Barkley said. So it just goes back to the initial point that they vet these guys before they put them on TV, and it's like they're all saying the same thing.
Very, very true. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight.
The next governor did was sell all that land to his friends. Okay. And every time...
Let me see if I can cue up exactly what he was talking about there when Andrew Young on Meet the Press was talking about the Confederate flag.
It may become a lightning rod issue in Democratic primaries in the state of Georgia. Stone Mountain is already a target there. You're not someone that says, take them all down. How would you try to resolve this dispute?
Well, I remind people of what it cost us to take down the Confederate flag. It cost us an election, and that election cost us $14.9 billion and 70,000 health care jobs that we would have had in Georgia if we had not gotten to fooling with that flag. It cost us the perimeter. We had an outer perimeter where we had been collecting land and designing it, and it was ready for construction. And the first thing the next governor did was sell all that land to his friends. And every time any Atlantan is caught in traffic or anybody tries to come through there, they need to remember that the flag put them there. They got a Confederate flag. Wave your Confederate flag and be happy while you're sitting in traffic. We have run this city since the business community in 1960 took out ads saying, we're a city too busy to hate.
That's about as much of him as I can take, but that was him talking about it. So basically those were his words about the Confederate flag. I think what he was trying to say is that it ended up with getting a governor who they got their Confederate flag and lost a bunch of other stuff here. But here's the real problem here is you hear how aristocratic he talks and whatnot. Black people getting killed doesn't bother him. He's just above that. He's got his. Everybody else is going to lose theirs. Caller from 832, really quickly, you're on live with the Black Channel.
Hello? How are you doing this evening? This is Renata from Houston.
Okay, what was the name again?
Renata.
Renata, okay, couldn't make that out right quick there. Renata from Houston. How's life in the Dominican Republic, I think it is?
Costa Rica.
I was close enough.
Yeah, by like about 300 miles, but yeah, it was good.
What's on your mind?
We just got back about 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Oh, good. You still owe me a tour trip. You still owe me a guided tour trip down there, as a matter of fact.
I've got you. Let me know when you're ready.
All right, we'll let your boyfriend know that you're going to take me down there. What's on your mind?
I was calling because I wanted to tell you about a situation that we encountered today. Speaking along the lines of these old coons, we were in my husband and I, we were in a neighborhood doing some research about properties that were going into tax foreclosure. Long story short, we ended up talking to one of the neighborhood pastors who let us know that some of the members of the church were like heirs of this property and to come by. So we did. And we listened to this man speak. And he did not even have a sermon, but this man bragged about how they just closed the deal to pay off the church property. They sold $800,000 worth of lots to an investment firm. And then he went on to speak to the church and tell them that they need to be debt-free and that they needed to sell their property. In so many words. He didn't come straight out and say that. But I was just sitting there amazed. And, of course, this man is about in his 70s. And the music was playing, and the church was shouting, and they were dancing around just elated that this man had closed this deal with no idea what it meant to the neighborhood. And mind you, Jason, right outside of this neighborhood, it's an historic black neighborhood. There's this sign, and guess what the sign says? It's coming in about a year. A Whole Foods.
If you saw my film Gentrified, and I remember autographing yours last week, if you saw yes, I remember my people. If you saw Gentrified, you saw that I had a whole chapter that told you that that's the bellwether. That's your sign today. When you see Whole Foods, here it comes. But you made a statement that the pastor is not concerned about, he's not taking into account the surrounding neighborhood. Well, of course not. He's taking into account himself. And $800,000, that's more money than that nigga's ever seen in his life. So, no, it's about cashing in. It's about cashing in.
And look, and the church, he stated the church had been buying up properties in the area since the 90s. When I first started teaching, when I was a teacher in the Houston school district, I worked at the neighborhood school, Booker T. Washington. And it is one of the most economically depressed areas in Houston. And it is so sad. And when you look in this neighborhood, there is a church literally on every other corner.
That's everywhere.
And this man sat in that pulpit with a straight face and bragged how they had $8 million in assets.
And the neighborhood is a pigsty.
My husband thinking, okay, when are they going to say what they're going to do with the money?
He's already told you.
How are they going to help the community?
No, he's going to help himself. $8 million is going to build a new cathedral and a new sanctuary and a new life center building, maybe a school and a playground. They just expand it for where they are. Listen to me, people. Listen to me, listen to me, listen to me, listen to me. There used to be a time a long time ago that the black church served black people. It no longer does. The black church of today is an organ controlled by white supremacists. Plain and simple. And if those Negroes were any threat to the system, then that's going to be a problem. So they, just like they know who they bring on national television, just like they know who they're bringing on, they know who the church people are. If the church was a threat, they'd have been gone after them. And that's everywhere. So when you talk about those church on every street corner, baby, that's everywhere. Houston, Dallas, Atlanta, when you get outside the downtown area, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Nashville, Memphis, you name it. It's like that everywhere. Black people invest in religious institutions. White folk invest in businesses. The results speak for themselves. I'll let you have the last word.
It's just, beyond time to start to organize and to really start to look at our community for what it is. Speaking specifically about gentrification, we have to start separating these older, especially pastors, and the leadership in the church who've completely sold out from the people who are still in it and ready to fight.
Black people of this generation have got to be willing to ask a simple question. And you have to be courageous enough to ask it to everybody. Some nigga having some gray hairs on their head should not protect them. When they start trying to tell you what to do, the first thing you should say is, where are your wins? Show me your victories against white supremacy that establishes you as an authority to tell me how to deal with them. And if the only thing they can say is, well, I've survived this long, you tell them cockroaches will survive the nuclear holocaust, that doesn't mean they should be an authority to tell me about survival, not with dignity. Because if living like a roach is your standard of living, I want no part of it. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Renata. Please do call us again. Tell Mr. McPhail... Hang in there. Caller from 347, you're on live with the Black Channel. Quickly.
Hello?
Yes, you're on live, 347. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Cool. My name is Ibrahim. I'm calling from New York.
Okay, you have your phone on speaker or something. I'm going to give you half a second to get it off of there real quick, or I got to move on. Half a second's over. Thank you very much. Let me take one more phone call here. Caller from 786. You're on live with the Black Channel very quickly because we're going to wrap this up.
Hello?
Yes. Caller from 786. Put down the mollies, please. You're on live.
Oh, hey, Jason. This is James calling in from Miami, Florida.
Okay, James from Miami. What's on your mind very quickly?
Well, I just wanted to say that the civil rights generation they failed us at the end of the day. And that's why we got to, confront Confederate monuments right now.
Very true. The civil rights generation's proof of failure is all these Confederate monuments, all these Confederate politicians, all these Confederate marches.
Exactly.
That is the ultimate proof that they failed. I could not have said it better myself. Thank you very much for joining us here tonight. Brothers and sisters, you cannot trust them. That's just the truth. You'll have some exceptions like Muhammad Ali and Dick Gregory, but they're kind of dying out. By and large, the rule of the civil rights generation is they failed, and this is the proof of their failure. This is a tough pill for you to swallow, but you're going to have to swallow it. Tough pill to swallow, but you must. And as far as Andrew Young, there's a reason nobody sings your praises. Nobody wears a shirt about you. And no one is going to hold you up as a profile in courage. Because you never were. And that is what you have to live with every day. The life of a coward. Looking back on all those decades and realizing those were decades of cowardice. Brag about that. If you haven't been to our website, blackchannelfilms.com, check out our documentaries 7 a.m. and Gentrified. You definitely want to be a part of that, blackchannelfilms.com. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of the blackchannel.net radio program. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, black is the future, and the future is uncompromising.